Chapter 4367. It wasn't far. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly, the emotions between her brows were very faint, her gaze fell onto the man's wrist which was clasped on her. "Let go of me. Do you hate me that much?" Zhu Wuxin's voice was a little bitter. He didn't loosen his grip and Yiqing Luo could only struggle out of his grip while replying, "To tell the truth, I don't hate you." She rubbed her wrist and took a step back, putting some distance between them. Then she raised her head and looked at him. "Why are you following me?" "I missed you." Zhu Wuxin's ability to say sweet nothings had already been activated. He used this expressionless face to say sweet nothings, but it did not feel out of place at all. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with foolishness. Did Master Chu think that I didn't hear what Bai Mei said earlier? The relationship between Chu Wuxin and Gloomy Palace. Yiqing Luo didn't intend to investigate further. No matter how he asked. Since Zhu Wuxan was unwilling to say it, there was nothing she could do. The only thing he could be sure of was, Zhu Wuxin was in the heaven realm because of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. The reason why Chu Wuxin had appeared was also because of the Gloomy Palace. Thinking of this, the smile on Yiqing Luo's lips became even more ridiculing. "To tell the truth, I am also very curious. What is the motive of Bai Mei reminding you not to forget?" "You want to know?" Zhu Wuxin chuckled softly. There was a black mist in his eyes. There was a strange coldness in his deep and cold eyes. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly. "Will you say it? As long as you come with me, I can tell you everything you want to know." Chu Wuxin's thin lips curled up. His expression was ice cold, but his tone was extremely serious. Yiqing Luo's heart sunk slightly as she subconsciously took a step back, as her eyes looked at Zhu Wuxian vigilantly. That vigilant look. It stung Zhu Wuxian's eyes. He couldn't help but laugh, his eyes full of bitterness. "Did I completely lose your trust after one mistake?" Yiqing Luo pursed her lips and didn't say anything. However, the wariness between his brows did not relax because of this. Chu Wuxian gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's face. The rumbling black fog in his eyes became thicker and thicker. He was almost drowned in the darkness. After a long while, the look in his eyes changed slightly. His thin lips moved slightly and he said very seriously, "I said I will never do anything to hurt you." Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. She really couldn't figure out Zhu Wuxin. Zhu Wuxin's obsession with her was very deep. It had already exceeded the scope of a normal person. Yiqing Zhen couldn't imagine what kind of things a person who had gone crazy because of obsession would do. Especially those who were connected to the Dark Nether Palace. Chu Wuxian didn't wait for Yiqing Luo's reply. What he said didn't make Yiqing Luo relax. His eyes darkened and his voice lowered. "It's been a long time since we last met. Let's catch up." "What do you want to say?" Yiqing Luo asked. "Let's find a place and have a drink." Chu Wuxin did not give a direct answer. Yiqing Luo took a look at Zhu Wuxian and looked at the three people who were gathered not too far away, looking at her worriedly. She pondered for a moment before answering, "Okay." Gu residence, Yiqing Luo's courtyard. Gu Yun carefully served up the wine flask as she listened to Yiqing Luo's orders and retreated. The surrounding Yiqing Luo had already asked everyone to leave. Gu Yun just walked out from the courtyard. Chapter 4368. Gu Yun shook her head. Everyone's faces fell. Although the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion lord's attitude towards Yiqing Luo seemed much gentler than the others. However, he was a cold-blooded and merciless person who killed without batting an eyelid. If Yiqing Luo's words made the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion lord unhappy, what if the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master made a move on Yiqing Luo? After all, Yiqing Luo had no profound energy. Thinking of this, Ren Jiaming could not stand still. "No, I have to go in and take a look. Who knows if the Scarlet Clear Pavilion's pavilion master will go berserk and make a move on our young miss." With that, he was about to rush into the courtyard. Huang Fuxing hurriedly pulled him back. Luo must have something to say to him if he agreed to talk to him alone. "Don't mess things up here." "What do you mean by causing trouble?" "I'm worried about young mistress," Ren Jiaming complained. Huang Fuxing suddenly stared at Ren Jiaming, sizing him up as if he wanted to see through Ren Jiaming. That blatant gaze. Ren Jiaming clutched his chest uncomfortably. What do you want to do?" Huang Fuxing narrowed his eyes. "Luo said that, you told the public that she is your fiancée and that you've been pestering her. It's all an act. But, why do I feel like you've really fallen for Luo?" Ren Jiaming's heart skipped a beat. He opened his mouth to deny it. But when the words reached his mouth, the girl's confident and flamboyant smile appeared in his mind. He couldn't bring himself to deny it. Gu Zishi moved her little head over and looked Ren Jiaming up and down. She raised her index finger and shook it. You better not fall in love with Aluo. She already has a husband. If you really fall in love with her, you'll get hurt. Husband? Husband? When Ren Jiaming heard these two words, he was startled. Gu Zishi's beautiful eyes widened. Yes, our Aluo has a peerless husband, and their relationship is very good. Don't tell me, you really fell in love with Aluo? Unparalleled in the world. Their relationship was very good. Gu Zishi's words made Ren Jiaming's heart feel like it had been punched hard by something. It made him feel suffocated. Why? When he heard that Yiqing Luo had a husband, why was his heart so sad? Could it be that he really... This thought made Ren Jiaming shudder. He hurriedly shook his head. Although there were many scars on his handsome face, an exaggerated laugh appeared. I pestered her because I wanted her to promise me something. Haha, she's so violent, how could I fall for her? As he spoke, he let out an exaggerated laugh. Then, as if to change the topic, he asked curiously, Is Mrs. name Aluo? Is your relationship with First Miss very good? Yiqing Luo had been in the Heaven Realm for this period of time. Everyone knew about the first young miss of the Bone Clan. But he had never heard Yiqing Luo mention her real name. That's right. Not only do we have a good relationship with Aluo, but we also know a lot about him. Gu Zishi indeed didn't pursue further about his feelings towards Yiqing Luo as he followed along with Ren Jiaming's topic. In the courtyard, Yiqing Luo pushed the wine pot in front of Zhu Wuxen as she tilted her head and looked at him. Now it's quiet, what do you want to say it directly. Zhu Wuxen poured himself a cup of wine and downed it in one gulp. His indifferent face had no trace of emotion. Chapter 4369. Accompany me for a drink or two. The man's deep voice was cold, but not knowing why, she could hear a few hints of pleading in it. Yiqing Luo? This fellow was getting worse and worse at disguising himself in front of her. Words of love came one after another. Even the ability to act pitiful had already been activated. To tell the truth, towards other men other than Xian, she wouldn't have much feelings towards any handsome man or bitter love scheme. But looking at Zhu Wuxian's contrast. Moreover, towards Zhu Wuxian she really couldn't be considered as loathing or hatred. So she didn't really reject him. She picked up another jug of wine and poured a cup. She didn't even touch glasses with Zhu Wuxian as she directly drank a cup of wine. Then she put down the wine cup and looked at Zhu Wuxian. I finished the wine, speak. Zhu Wuxian's fingers which were holding the wine cup tightened slightly. His fingertips were strangely white. Between his pupils, there was a thick black mist shrouding all his emotions. Just like that, he looked at Yiqing Luo quietly. Between his brows, there was a sense of self-ridicule. Yiqing Luo, who was stared at by this gaze, rubbed her arms as she angrily retorted, What are you looking at? If you don't talk about proper matters, I'm going to chase you away. Looking at you. Another sudden words of love. Still expressionless emotions. Looking at that face. Yiqing Luo was suspecting if she had heard wrongly. But immediately following that, she heard him continuing, You won't chase me away. Incredible Zhu Wuxian. She indeed wouldn't chase him away. After all, she couldn't beat Zhu Wuxian now. If Zhu Wuxian wasn't willing to leave, what could she use to chase him away? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, not willing to listen to Zhu Wuxian's words of love. Yes, I can't chase you away, but I can leave. Saying that, she stood up and turned around as she walked towards the inner courtyard. She hadn't even taken 2 steps. A man's low voice was heard from behind. Bai Mei came to Heaven Realm and... The reason why you came to Heaven Realm, don't you want to know? This sentence successfully stopped Yiqing Luo from taking another step. She returned to the stone table and sat down, placing one hand on the stone table as she asked him, What reason? Let's drink. Zhu Wuxin shook his wine cup. Yiqing Luo. She'd better leave. However, just as he was about to leave, the man continued, The Huangfu clan clearly knows your true identity, yet they allow Bai Mei to mess around with the imperial family. They don't expose your identity as the young miss of the Gu clan. Aren't you curious about the reason behind this? Yiqing Luo. Was Zhu Wuxin doing this on purpose? Seeing that she still hadn't turned around, Zhu Wuxin unleashed his ultimate move. Even though they know that Di Zun won't let the Huangfu clan off, the Huangfu siblings still insist on killing you. Aren't you curious why? Yiqing Luo. Fine. You win. Yiqing Luo lifted her skirt and sat back down heavily. He grabbed a bottle of wine and slammed it on the table. How do you want to drink? I'll keep you company to the end. Zhu Wuxen seemed as though he couldn't detect the anger in Yiqing Luo's words as his cold gaze stared at Yiqing Luo's face. Let's ask each other questions. If you can't answer, then drink. How about that? Truth or dare? Yiqing Luo blurted out. Zhu Wuxen didn't understand the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words, but he understood the first 3 words. His thin lips curled upwards as he replied seriously and solemnly, yes, it must be the truth. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. All right. Sure. She could take the opportunity to ask him a lot of things which she had long wanted to know. Chapter 4370. Remember in 1 second, 800 $say, net. This is a wonderful free reading without a pop-up window. Zhu Wuxin set up 2 cups and poured a full pot of wine. Yiqing Luo stared at the rippling wine. Who asks first? Whatever, Zhu Wuxin replied calmly. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled as she replied impolitely, then I'll start first. First question, are you from the secluded palace? No. Zhu Wuxin's answer was very decisive. Yiqing Luo raised her long and narrow brows. We have agreed it must be the truth, no lies. I'm not lying. His expression did not change. Yiqing Luo touched her chin. If you're not from the Palace of Darkness, then why are you involved with the Palace of Darkness? This is the second question. Zhu Wuxin did not answer. It's my turn to ask you. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands. Sure, ask away. Do you have any feelings for me? Zhu Wuxin's gaze was solemn as he looked at her. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as her expression turned solemn. No. Zhu Wuxian's brows drooped slightly. Yiqing Luo didn't want to explain anything as she asked the second question. Why are you together with the people from secluded palace? Cooperation, Zhu Wuxin answered simply. Yiqing Luo rubbed her hair. What's the difference between your answer and not answering at all? Can't it be simpler? His entire body fell forward. *CK. Yiqing Luo was cursing in her heart. How could he be so unlucky? She was about to take a deep breath to stabilize her body that was about to kiss the earth. He didn't even have time to react. She could only smell a familiar scent drifting over to her nose. A light and elegant plum fragrance lingered in the air. A pair of thick arms caught her firmly. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened. This aura, it was very familiar. Almost a whiff. Yiqing Luo was able to ascertain the other party's identity. However, she couldn't understand. Why did he appear here? Yiqing Luo frowned as she struggled, trying to break free from the wrist that was restraining her arm. But it was the arm that held her. He abruptly increased the strength of his hands. Her delicate body was tightly locked in his embrace. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even more tightly. She looked up angrily. As soon as he raised his head, he found himself staring into a pair of deep, bottomless black pupils. His eyes were extremely dark and heavy. It was quiet and serene without the slightest bit of brilliance. Just staring fixedly at Yiqing Luo. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes. However, if one were to look closely, one would be able to see deep emotions in those black eyes. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened, her pink lips pursed slightly. Let go. Hugging the man at such a close distance. It made Yiqing Luo feel extremely uncomfortable. Other than Di Xian, her body was repulsed by any intimate touch from the opposite sex. I won't. The man's voice was deep and low. His eyes were dark and gloomy. I miss you. I miss you very much. Now that I've seen you, I don't want to let you go. Following his words, he even forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace. His arms tightly embraced the girl's delicate body, as though he wanted to let the young lady's body be tainted with his scent. That plum fragrance, although simple and elegant. But Yiqing Luo couldn't take it. Her eyelashes fluttered as she clasped his hand which was restrained on her body. Zhu Wuxian, let go of me. The person in front of her. Wasn't it Zhu Wuxian? Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo had not expected that she would be able to meet Zhu Wuxian when she reached the earth boundary. Chapter 4371. Romance Chinese Network Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Yiqing Luo slowly sat up straight as her gaze met Zhu Wuxian's gaze seriously. Then I'll tell you. Just as Yiqing Luo was about to open her mouth, Zhu Wuxin suddenly reached out, picked up the wine cup on the table and drained it in one gulp. This action made Yiqing Luo swallow back the words that she was about to say. She looked at Zhu Wuxin. What do you mean? You don't need to answer this question. He put down the wine glass and his slender fingers slowly wiped away the wine dripping from his lips. Because of the alcohol, his eyes seemed a bit deep. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. He was the one who insisted on getting the answer. Now he was drinking for her and preventing her from answering. Yiqing Luo was unable to see through the person in front of her. What was he thinking in his heart? It's your turn to ask. Zhu Wuxen didn't give Yiqing Luo any time to continue thinking as he called out to remind her. Yiqing Luo stared at him for a while, but under his expressionless expression, she really couldn't see anything deeper. Fine, you're the one who won't let me answer. She restrained her emotions and continued to ask. You said before, what is Bai Mei's purpose in coming to the heaven realm? Was it arranged by the palace of gloomy darkness, or did they come after me? Zhu Wuxin, our target is you. I'll arrange it. You're using this simple answer again? Yiqing Luo pouted. Can't you give me some useful answers? Bai Mei's only goal now is to send you to hell with her. This time, Zhu Wuxen lengthened his sentence. The palace of gloomy shadows knows that you are in the heaven realm, so they sent Bai Mei over. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes suddenly narrowed. As expected, the secluded darkness palace already knew that she was in the heaven realm. But there was no movement at all. If Ren Jiaming hadn't come looking for her because she was a pharmacist, even now, she might not know that the heaven realm had already been infiltrated by the forces of the Nether Palace. Her arrival in the heaven realm could be considered as an accident. Even if she was arrogant in the heaven realm, it definitely wouldn't attract the attention of the Dark Palace. Unless, the secluded Darkness Palace had long known that she would arrive at the heaven realm at this time. In Yiqing Luo's mind, the first thought was, Bloodbone Barbaric King. Could it be, all of this was actually a conspiracy set up by the Bloodbone Barbarian King in the Abyss Palace? Then, what was the use of White Charm? Restraining Baisu? Yiqing Luo. Just as Yiqing Luo's mind was filled with thoughts, Zhu Wuxin's voice rang out beside his ear. Did you hear what I asked you? Yiqing Luo regained her senses. What? Zhu Wuxen stared at Yiqing Luo for some time as the emotions on his face were like a whirlpool churning. After a long time he finally said, I just suddenly want to know who you are. When he said the last 5 words, his tone became extremely low. A pair of deep eyes stared at her without blinking. It was as if he had seen through her eyes. He saw through everything about her. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped, the smile on her lips was somewhat forced. What are you talking about? The her in my memory shouldn't be like you. Zhu Wuxen leaned forward slightly, closing the distance between the two of them. I've confirmed that you didn't disguise yourself, and you have her birthmark on your body. The close distance made Yiqing Luo able to smell the faint plum fragrance from Zhu Wuxen's body clearly. But this fragrance wasn't able to make Yiqing Luo's heart calm down. Chapter 4372. 3464. Bringing out the evidence on the contrary, it made Yiqing Luo's heart inexplicably flustered. She frowned as she took 2 steps back, avoiding Zhu Wuxen's aura which enveloped her. Zhu Wuxen didn't force himself to get close, but that pair of bottomless eyes turned even deeper and colder. Who on earth are you? His words paused slightly as he sat back down and his gaze fell onto the wine cup. Of course, you can also choose to drink wine. Yiqing Luo's eyes, from the start till the end, had never left Zhu Wuxen's line of sight. Drink wine? Wasn't drinking wine to prove to Zhu Wuxen that she wasn't the original Yiqing Luo? Her gaze suddenly congealed as her brows were covered with a layer of laziness. Her lips curled into a gorgeous smile, which was extremely dazzling. Young Master Zhu, what do you mean by this question? Now is the time for you to answer the question. Zhu Wuxen stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. All right. Yiqing Luo sighed as she raised her hand and her slender jade fingers gently caressed her face. Her posture was graceful and alluring, as her wrist lifted the flame-robed sleeves, like a burning flame. Following that, was the young lady's clear voice, one word at a time, I am Yiqing Luo. Truth. Zhu Wuxen's eyes sunk. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Truth, I am Yiqing Luo. She was indeed speaking from the bottom of her heart. No matter if it was in the past or now. Her name was indeed Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxen's eyes deepened. Before he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo suddenly leaned in closer to him. Between her brows there was a slight smile. Young Master Zhu, isn't this question of yours a little too funny? If I'm not Yiqing Luo, then who do you think I am? Between his breaths, a delicate fragrance from the young lady entered his nose. Zhu Wuxen's body suddenly stiffened. That pair of sunken eyes congealed for a moment. Yiqing Luo continued to smile sweetly. I'm very curious, what is the reason that made young Master Zhu I'm not Yiqing Luo? Right from the beginning. Zhu Wuxian's breathing was slightly tightened as his entire body tensed up, making him turn his head away. If he looked at the young lady's smile, which was just inches away. From time to time, a delicate fragrance wafted into his nostrils. He was afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Zhu Wuxin's hands on the stone table were tightly clenched into fists. He despised himself in his heart. When facing Yiqing Luo, he was always unable to control his true feelings. Yiqing Luo saw Zhu Wuxian shifting his gaze away. Then he sat back in his seat. Her lips curled upwards, her flowery pink lips curled into a teasing smile. Right from the start, Master Zhu felt that I'm not Yiqing Luo, then why? Repeatedly appear in front of me and say such ambiguous words? That's right. With that, she chuckled softly, or perhaps young Master Chu is finding excuses for himself because he failed to woo her? If that's the case, I don't mind cooperating with young Master Chu. Yiqing Luo. Chu Wuxin suddenly shouted. He suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. He forcefully pulled her into his embrace. That strength was extremely great. Yiqing Luo was also unable to struggle free. What do you mean? She raised her head as she looked at him quietly. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was suffused with a sliver of coldness. I want an answer. I've answered your question. Yiqing Luo's tone also turned cold. Whether you believe me or not, that's your business. Zhu Wuxian's hand, which was holding her arm, increased in strength. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly. If you feel that I'm not Yiqing Luo, then show me the evidence. They were all shouting the Overlord the Overlord. Where is the Overlord? Where is the Duck Overlord? The Overlord is in your hearts. End of this chapter. Chapter 4373. Who I want to be with for the rest of my life. Zhu Wuxian's eyes were icy cold, and when he heard Yiqing Luo's words, his body stiffened once again. He was stiff, and even his fingers on her arm were stiff. Just like that, the two of them looked at each other for a while. Yiqing Luo had not the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. The atmosphere was tense. In the end, Zhu Wuxin loosened his grip. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she rubbed her wrist while looking at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Mr. Chu is really strange. Since in your heart, you've already determined that I'm not the person you're looking for, then why do you need to show mercy to me? Zhu Wuxian's deep eyes seemed to be hiding some kind of hurricane. He stared at Yiqing Luo as his voice was deep and cold. Do you still want to ask questions? Yes. He didn't want to be entangled in this issue, and Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't pursue this issue with him. The news that she came from another world. The fewer people who knew, the better. This was especially true for someone like Zhu Wuxin, someone she didn't know if he was a friend or foe. All the more reason not to let him know. Zhu Wuxian squinted at Yiqing Luo as his fingertips rubbed the wine cup. Ask. Yiqing Luo asked, has the blood-bone barbaric king also collaborated with the Nether Palace? Zhu Wuxin stared at the wine glass without even lifting his gaze. I'm not familiar with it. I've never seen it. What he meant was, you didn't see him in the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Or could it be that the barbaric blood-bone king had never appeared when he was in the Dark Nether Palace? Why does it feel like Zhu Wuxin doesn't seem to know anything when I ask him? Why can't you choose me? Is it only because I appeared later than him? Zhu Wuxian's next question followed closely. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed as she deliberated over her words before she opened her mouth to reply. It's not because you appeared later than him. Something like love doesn't differentiate by who comes first. It's just that when I saw Xian, I had already determined that he was the person whom I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. Zhu Wuxin's eyes seemed to be covered by a black fog. Even the cold expression on her face could not conceal the chilliness that was emanating from her body. Yiqing Luo intentionally didn't bother about Zhu Wuxian's emotions as she continued to ask, I want to know the detailed plan of secluded darkness palace in the heaven realm. This was the real crux of the matter. As long as he knew the plan of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, she could think of a way to destroy the Palace of Darkness's plan in the heaven realm. Yiqing Luo was waiting for Zhu Wuxian's reply. He watched helplessly as Yiqing Luo picked up the wine cup which she had been holding tightly in her hand, and drained it in one gulp. Yiqing Luo, okay according to the rules? Indeed, he could use this method to evade an answer. Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze as she kicked the stone block which Zhu Wuxian was sitting on. It's your turn to ask. Must it be him? Zhu Wuxian placed the wine cup heavily on the stone table. The porcelain cup collided with the stone table, producing a crisp sound. Yiqing Luo patiently replied seriously, Yes, it has to be him. If it's not him, it won't do. Then she asked, is the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace in the Heaven Realm? Zhu Wuxia didn't hesitate as he picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Following that, he looked towards Yiqing Luo as he asked his own question. Initially, Yiqing Luo only treated her own question as it had touched the bottom line of his collaboration with Secluded Darkness Palace. So she avoided answering. But there were several questions consecutively. Even the simplest. How many people from Secluded Darkness Palace? This kind of question. Zhu Wuxia directly drank the wine and then asked her own question. End of this chapter. Chapter 4374. Yiqing Luo, don't go. A few times. How would Yiqing Luo not know? This guy was obviously doing it on purpose. If you want to drink, just say so. Was there any meaning in playing this game of you ask and I answer to get information from her? Moreover, the questions he asked were all about personal feelings. His words were instigating her to have a change of heart, quickly change of heart. To think that she had answered all his questions so seriously. After another question, Zhu Wuxia raised his wine cup and started drinking. Yiqing Luo couldn't bear it any longer as she stretched out her hand and pressed his hand which was holding the wine glass. If you want a drink, go back to your own place to drink, I won't accompany you. Due to the alcohol, Zhu Wuxia's eyes became hazy for a moment. That pair of black, glass-like eyes were even more dazzling and dazzling. The coldness on her face faded a little. His hand was forcefully pressed back onto the stone table. The wine cup was placed behind the stone table. The girl then stood up. Zhu Wuxia frantically stretched out his hand and grabbed the young lady's wrist. Yiqing Luo? Don't go. His voice was a little hoarse because of the alcohol. There seemed to be some pain in his hoarse voice. Yiqing Luo's hand moved. She was unable to struggle free from his palm. Yiqing Luo. I won't drink anymore. I'll answer the questions properly, alright? Zhu Wuxia was apparently slightly drunk. When he spoke, he actually sounded a little humble. Yes. These two words surfaced in Yiqing Luo's mind. Because the man seemed to be begging her. His eyes were blurred by the smell of alcohol. That hoarse voice and bitter tone. Both of them were filled with unbearable humbleness. Yiqing Luo was in a daze, in her mind. Zhu Wuxia had always been a cold and aloof person with a poker face. He was a person who would remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. Even if she was taught by others and learned a few sweet nothings. However, his personality was still extremely cold. But now, revealing one's true nature after drinking? Or was it that his heart was too uncomfortable? Why did he have to be so petty? Yiqing Luo had to admit. Looking at Zhu Wuxia's current state, she really couldn't bring herself to do it. Zhu Wuxia was really good at using this trick of injuring himself to gain confidence. Yiqing Luo sighed and sat back. Alright, let go first. Zhu Wuxia obediently let go of him. He continued to stare at her with his misty eyes. She was not used to such a contrast. Unexpectedly, after Zhu Wuxia got drunk, he seemed to have changed into a different person. She pushed the glass away and looked at him sternly. Ask and answer directly. No one is allowed to drink. If you ask, you have to answer. Zhu Wuxia sat up straight. His cold face carried a hint of drunkenness and a different emotion. Alright. Zhu Wuxia was really good at using this trick of injuring himself to gain confidence. Yiqing Luo sighed and sat back. Alright, let go first. Zhu Wuxia obediently let go of him. He continued to stare at her with his misty eyes. She was not used to such a contrast. Unexpectedly, after Zhu Wuxia got drunk, he seemed to have changed into a different person. She pushed the glass away and looked at him sternly. Ask and answer directly. No one is allowed to drink. If you ask, you have to answer. Zhu Wuxia sat up straight. His cold face carried a hint of drunkenness and a different emotion. Alright. She had not expected that after Zhu Wuxia got drunk, he seemed to have changed into another person. She pushed the glass away and looked at him sternly. Ask and answer directly. No one is allowed to drink. If you ask, you have to answer. Zhu Wuxia sat up straight. His cold face carried a hint of drunkenness and a different emotion. Alright. End of this chapter. Chapter 4375. You indeed cared about him a lot. Yiqing Luo's expression turned indifferent. Her pair of eyes squinted. The young lady's change in emotions was naturally felt by Zhu Wuxia. He looked at the expressionless young lady and suddenly laughed softly. Even if you look at me like this, it won't change the fact that he is unable to protect you. If you are with me, I will absolutely not let you suffer any harm. No one will dare to touch you. His words were sonorous and forceful, as though he was making a declaration. But it didn't move Yiqing Luo. In this world, the only person who understood her was Dmo Xian alone. Only Dmo Xian knew what she really wanted. She didn't need anyone's protection. She didn't need that kind of protection that would keep her like a canary, not being harmed at all. She would rely on Dmo Xian. But that was only because Dmo Xian was her man. She could choose to rely on him. But she didn't need to rely on him. But Zhu Wuxian apparently didn't understand. Or perhaps his so-called love was to protect her, not letting her get hurt. But he neglected the real thought of being loved by the one he loved. She had never felt that Dmo Xian was unable to protect her. Because Dmo Xian respected her choice, giving her a chance to grow. If she continued to fly slowly under Dmo Xian's wings, there was a possibility that one day she would forget how to fly. She didn't want to become that kind of person. Haven't you always wanted to know why I didn't choose you? Yiqing Luo laughed as she raised her eyes and met his gaze. This is the reason. Protecting you, not willing to let you get hurt, is the reason why you rejected me? Zhu Wuxian's cold face was covered with a thin layer of frost. You won't understand. Yiqing Luo didn't want to argue with him on this topic. But Zhu Wuxian obviously didn't intend to let this matter rest. His expression was solemn and his tone was chilly. His entire body was filled with a chilly intent. Yiqing Luo, Huangfu siblings knew your identity but still dared to lay their hands on you. Isn't it because of Dmo Xian's incompetence? If he could show a little bit of courage, Huangfu siblings would take a detour when they see you. This could be. This was the longest speech that Zhu Wuxin had ever spoken, right? Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. Her expression was no longer as calm as it had been when they met face to face. His gaze carried with it an aura of disdain for the entire world. She placed her hands on the stone table and leaned over to look at him. That pair of long and narrow eyes were flowing with brilliance, lazy and noble. Every single one of her movements was like that of an empress, emitting a domineering aura. She was angry. Just like that, Zhu Wuxin raised his head and their eyes met. Their eyes were filled with different kinds of hurricanes. Sparks flew as they collided with each other. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up in ridicule. Her tone was icy cold and filled with an intense viciousness. It wasn't just anger. Moreover, he was very angry. Don't think that I don't know what request the people of the gloomy palace agreed to the Huangfu siblings. Are you trying to sow discord between me and Xian? Aren't you guys looking down on me? Zhu Wuxin still did not speak. The cold air spread between the two of them. It was as if it had been frozen into frost. After a long time, a self-mocking chuckle broke the silence at this moment. Ha! That laugh made one's heart wrench inexplicably. You indeed care about him a lot. He couldn't tolerate anyone saying anything bad about him. And he couldn't tolerate anyone doubting him. Update complete. Moi, end of this chapter. Chapter 4376. Zhu Wuxian felt that it was funny. He was unable to understand why he had to endure these disturbing words in front of Yiqing Luo. Logic told him very clearly. Don't ask any more questions regarding that person. But his body was not under his control. He just couldn't help but want to see in Yiqing Luo's heart what kind of position that person occupied. A fluke hope. He could surpass that person to let Yiqing Luo remember him. But now, he saw it. To Yiqing Luo, that person was more important than herself. Jealous? It's jealousy. Jealous, wanting to take Yiqing Luo as his own, to belong to him alone. In her mind there was only the memory of him. Zhu Wuxian? Yiqing Luo sensed that Zhu Wuxian's breathing was very messy. Even his aura was uncontrollably agitated, as though something was undergoing a change. Yiqing Luo called out to Zhu Wuxian, but she didn't get a reply from him. She stretched out her hand and pushed Zhu Wuxian. Zhu Wuxian's eyes then focused as it slowly landed on Yiqing Luo. Forget it, you're drunk, so there's no need to continue this game. Yiqing Luo said, I'll send you to the inn. Wait. Zhu Wuxian made a sound as his deep black eyes, cold and indifferent gaze, was strangely breathtaking. He swayed his body as he slowly stood up. That cold face, which was dyed red by the alcohol, had a different style. Earlier you asked me a question, now. It's my turn to ask you the last question. Zhu Wuxian's gaze towards her had a subtle change. Yiqing Luo looked at his swaying body, nor had any intention to support him. She stood on the original spot, her pink lips slightly tightened. After muttering to herself for a moment, she said, The last question you ask. Zhu Wuxin stared at her face without blinking, as if he was trying to memorize her face. That fervent gaze. It made Yiqing Luo have an inexplicable ominous premonition. Before she had time to think in detail, she heard Zhu Wu Xian's cold voice asking, "Do you still remember when you reached the earth boundary you fell into a coma for half a month? That was the first thing I did wrong." Yiqing Luo's brows twitched. He continued, "Yiqing Luo, if I'm wrong for the second time, will you still treat me as your friend?" Yiqing Luo's expression sunk. His heart felt like it had been struck by something. Her pupils suddenly contracted, her eyes locked onto Zhu Wu Xian's face. What do you mean?" As soon as the words left his mouth, she felt dizzy all of a sudden. His body swayed weakly. Then he collapsed to the ground. However, the person who should have been slightly drunk and surrounded by the smell of alcohol reached out his hand quickly and caught hold of her firmly. His footsteps were steady and steady. Where was the slightest bit of his previous shakiness? Yiqing Luo's chest tightened. "You are lying to me." He was not drunk at all. His goal from the very beginning was to lay his hands on her. She was really stupid. He could even get Zhu Wuxin to use the same method to deceive him a second time. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she wanted to slap herself. He also wanted to tear Zhu Wuxin apart. But her entire body was weak and her mind was in a mess. It made her unable to maintain her consciousness. In the end, her thoughts had completely drifted away. Just as her eyes had sunk into darkness. Faintly she heard the man's icy cold and helpless voice. "I'm sorry. This is the last time. Hurry up and read the latest updates." Download address. Chapter 4377. Yiqing Luo, go to hell for the last time. I will tear you into pieces for the last time as well. Yiqing Luo's heart was going berserk. If only she believed Zhu Wu Xian for one more time. She was an idiot. Heaven Realm, Old City Palace. The emperor was dressed in a bright yellow dragon robe, leading numerous palace servants as he stood respectfully at a certain spot. All of them had an extremely devout expression on their faces, as though they were welcoming some important person. Everyone didn't know how long they stood there. Their foreheads were dripping with sweat. But they still maintained a respectful attitude as they waited quietly. Behind the emperor, a young man stood beside an empress in a phoenix robe. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said impatiently, "Mother, who is father welcoming? Who is it that needs us to welcome personally?" What kind of person is father welcoming? Not only did he welcome them personally, but they still hadn't arrived? They were the Heaven Realm's royal family. The master who controlled the entire Heaven Realm. They actually had to wait for someone in such a lowly manner. Even the 4 heavenly families didn't have such treatment, right? The young man's voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't small. The emperor glanced sideways, his gaze was sharp and filled with warning. The empress immediately grabbed her son's arm, using her gaze to stop his displeasure. The young man pouted unhappily. It was all Imperial Sister's fault, disappearing so early in the morning, causing him to be dragged here by father to stand for 2 hours. He wasn't even allowed to rest or drink any water. His heart was filled with injustice. But thinking of father's warning gaze, the young man suppressed the discomfort in his body, as he stood on the spot obediently. But the impatient expression on his face didn't retract. Just at this moment, suddenly a piece of pure and holy light shrouded in all directions. Following that, a ray of light was cast downwards. The emperor's face was instantly filled with joy as he coughed lightly, reminding the people behind to maintain their manners. The empress hurriedly pulled the young man below. What entered everyone's eyes was a huge 9-tailed white fox. Its 4 limbs were burning like flames, its 9 furry long tails were intertwining and swaying. That elegant and noble 9-tailed fox approached from afar. The crowd could only feel a tremendous pressure crushing down upon them. The young man stared at that 9-tailed fox as his eyes were covered by the flames. 9-tailed fox, a pure white 9-tailed fox without any impurities. What a beautiful 9-tailed fox. The youth could not suppress the restlessness in his heart. "Greetings, Lord Overlord." The emperor's voice was filled with excitement. Then he knelt down in the direction of the 9-tailed fox. A group of palace servants followed suit and knelt down. The youth's reaction was a step too slow and he was forcefully pressed to the ground by the empress. The youth knelt on the ground, but he could not help but glance at the mighty 9-tailed fox from the corner of his eyes. A figure slowly walked down from the back of the 9-tailed fox. That figure was tall and stalwart. He wore a shimmering purple brocade robe with silver embroidery. His black hair was tied up in a simple jade crown. His aura was boundlessly domineering, and he exuded a noble and cold aura. Following the appearance of the man, a terrifying aura spread out in all directions. Even the air had become much thinner. That person was as elegant and noble as a god. No one dared to look at him directly. After the man landed on the ground, the huge and mighty nine-tailed fox disappeared in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. "Lord Overlord, I have specially prepared a banquet to welcome you from thousands of miles away. Please do me the honor, Lord Overlord." The emperor's tone was indescribably excited. Chapter 4378. Dmo Xian's face was grave and stern, his deep eyes were devoid of any thoughts. "Your Majesty should be clear about the purpose of this sovereign's visit." "Yes, yes, yes," the emperor immediately replied respectfully. "I will definitely do my best to complete the task that the Overlord has entrusted to me. I believe there will be results very soon." Dmo Xian nodded slightly and walked past the emperor, heading towards another direction. The emperor quickly stood up and followed respectfully behind Dmo Xian. Along the way, the emperor was trying to think of a way to strike up a conversation with Dmo Xian. But helplessly, Dmo Xian did not have much ideas and did not bother about him. A group of palace maids followed behind. They had just passed the imperial garden and were about to reach the banquet venue. Suddenly a sharp voice rang. "This princess is so angry. What right does that person have to make this princess pay for the crystals? And that by May she actually put all the losses on this princess's head. Who does she think she is?" There were palace maids trying to persuade her in a low voice. But that sharp voice was obviously infuriated and did not listen to any words at all. She even directly took action and sent all the palace maids flying. This interlude made the emperor's face sink immediately. His sharp gaze stared fiercely at the empress. Then he put on a smile and carefully explained. "I've let the Overlord see a joke. This princess of mine usually only recites some words from the script. Now she is immersed in her role again." Dmo Xian suddenly paused his footsteps and looked towards the direction where the voice came from. The emperor's face turned even uglier as he looked at Dmo Xian with even more caution. "Overlord, if I have disturbed you I will," before he could finish his words. At the corner a figure walked out. That woman was in a mess and looked like she had just gone through a chaotic battle. The beautiful face that could be considered delicate, however, was filled with malevolence and anger. At this corner, both sides bumped into each other. When that woman saw the emperor, the twisted expression on her face immediately changed. She ran towards the royal father with small steps, opened her mouth and started wailing with grievance. Royal Father Zhu was bullied by that person from the Gu residence. That person from the Gu residence provoked the royal family and even threatened to let the Gu residence rule the heaven domain. Gong Xiazhu. The emperor's face was ashen. He wanted nothing more than to strangle this daughter of his. What a coincidence. Just happened to run into his bossy daughter. He shouted harshly and hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. "Can't you see that I am receiving an honored guest? If you want to practice your script, find a palace maid to accompany you." Imperial father? Gong Xiazhu had yet to react. Then she saw the empress winking at her. Only then did she come to a realization. Her gaze followed the empress' line of sight and landed on the man at the side. Gong Xiazhu's eyes widened. His heart felt like it was about to jump out of his throat. It was just a clash of gazes. Gong Xiazhu felt her legs go soft and weak. Oh, who is that? He was a million times more handsome than her brother Ming. The expression on her face suddenly changed as her eyes were filled with infatuation as she looked at Dmo Xian. "What are you waiting for? Take her away." Gong Xiazhu's actions almost caused the imperial capital to have a heart attack. He felt that his life would be shortened by several years after this. After being reprimanded, the empress hurriedly apologized. After that, he pulled Gong Xiazhu's arm, asking her to bow down and apologize to Dmo Xian before pulling her along to leave. Chapter 4379. Stop right there. His deep and cold voice had a hint of coldness in it. Dmo Xian's gaze fell on Gong Xiazhu. Empress was so scared that her body went soft as she pulled Gong Xiazhu to kneel on the ground. The emperor's expression was also extremely unsightly. He was both terrified and asked tentatively, "Lord Dizun, you are?" Dmo Xian raised his hand and stopped emperor. After that, he looked at Gong Xiazhu and said word by word, "You know by May?" Gong Xiazhu thought that Dmo Xian had stopped her because he had taken a fancy to her beauty. She even met Dmo Xian's gaze and stroked her hair coquettishly. The moment she heard Dmo Xian mention her name, she was stunned. Empress pinched Gong Shazhu anxiously. If you know Bai Mei, tell the overlord. Gong Shazhu sucked in a breath of cold air in pain as she pursed her lips in grievance. I do know Bai Mei. Bai Mei. The emperor repeated the name in his mind. He finally understood why the overlord suddenly stopped in his tracks. Earlier, Gong Shazhu had mentioned Bai Mei's name while she was cursing. And this name, wasn't it the person whom the overlord wanted him to look for in the heaven realm? He had not expected that after searching for so many days, his own daughter actually knew that person called Bai Mei. Emperor immediately said, Shazhu, if you know who Bai Mei is, get someone to bring her here. She is the person whom the overlord is looking for. As he spoke, he hinted Gong Shazhu with his eyes. As long as Gong Shazhu brought Bai Mei here, then she could take the opportunity to let the overlord forgive her for her offense. But Emperor's words had a different meaning in Gong Shazhu's ears. The overlord specially came to the heaven realm to look for a woman? Could it be that there was an indescribable relationship between the overlord and Bai Mei? Thinking of this, Gong Shazhu's heart was filled with jealousy. Such an outstanding man, much more outstanding than Ren Jiaming. His status was distinguished and he was powerful. This kind of man should have chosen such an outstanding woman like her. Thinking of Bai Mei's disgusting side, Gong Shazhu's face revealed a disgusted expression. Overlord, I'm afraid you don't know what kind of person Bai Mei is? She's a monster. As she spoke, she purposely rubbed her arms, her whole body shivering. You don't know that face of hers is completely fake. She was using someone else's face as her own. Actually, she's so ugly that she's disgusting. Xiazhu. How could the emperor not hear what his daughter was thinking? He warned her sternly to stop her from talking nonsense. Immediately after that, he gave a dry laugh and said to Diamo Xian, Overlord, don't listen to Xiazhu's nonsense. She might have been lost in the storybook and hasn't walked out from it yet. It's her. Diamo Xian said lightly. The emperor's explanation was stuck in his throat. It's her? The meaning was, the Bai Mei that Gong Shazhu mentioned was the person he was looking for? The emperor's mind was in turmoil. But he also knew what he shouldn't ask. He hurriedly bowed and said, We will ask Xiazhu to bring him here. I can't find her. Gong Shazhu didn't expect that the person the overlord was looking for was that ugly freak. She said with some hesitation. After her face was ruined, she went crazy and I don't know where she ran off to. Xiazhu. The emperor bellowed sternly as his expression turned gloomy. Gong Shazhu felt a little wronged from his glare. Usually she's the one who takes the initiative to look for me. I really don't know where she is. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address. Mobile phone reading. Chapter 4380. The emperor was drenched in cold sweat. Lord Dizun, although Xiazhu is naughty, she's also very sensible. She really doesn't know where that woman called Bai Mei is. Diamo Xian's expression did not fluctuate in the slightest. His gaze was as deep as the abyss. He didn't care about the terrified looks on the faces of the people around him. He stared straight at Gong Shazhu and asked, Why is she looking for you? Gong Shazhu had goosebumps all over her body from that gaze. She shivered and shrank back. Huang hatefully gritted his teeth and said angrily, Whatever Lord Dizun asks you, just answer. Gong Shazhu lowered her head, feeling very indignant. She was such an outstanding woman standing in front of him. He only wanted to ask about that ugly monster Bai Mei. If he could be a little gentler, she could also consider giving up on Ren Jiaming and accept him. However, Gong Shazhu was still unwilling. Faced with her father's sharp gaze and the aura that was pressing down on her, she hesitated and said reluctantly, She and I have a common enemy. Gong Shazhu, who had her head lowered, didn't see that when she said those words, a glint flashed past Diamo Xian's eyes. She continued, She took the initiative to find me and said that she could help me deal with that bitch from the Gu residence. She could even ally with the Huangfu clan to help me. Diamo Xian, what's the result? He didn't know if it was an illusion. Gong Shazhu always felt that Dizun's originally majestic and suffocating aura had been slightly restrained. Vaguely, they seemed to see a smile on Dizun's face, which was so magnificent that no one dared to look at it. Gong Shazhu was stunned again. Only when the Empress pinched her again did she return to her senses. She stammered, In the end, the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion took the young miss of the Gu clan away, and Bai Mei left. Red Clear Pavilion? Pavilion master. Diamo Xian muttered softly as his gaze suddenly turned cold. A bone-piercing cold aura instantly spread out. It caused everyone's heart to tremble. Immediately after, she heard Diamo Xian's deep and icy cold voice rang out, Eldest young miss of the Gu residence, right? There was a hint of danger in his tone. Gong Xiaozhu seemed to have understood something, and a trace of hatred flashed across her eyes. Yes. It was the first young miss of the Gu residence, that fickle woman. Not only did she seduce the second young master of the Ren family, she even seduced the young master of the Huangfu family. After that, when she saw the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion, she used all of her skills to seduce the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion. Only then did she force Bai Mei to leave. If he could borrow the Di Zun's hand to kill the first young miss of the Gu clan, he would definitely be able to do so. Even if Bone Lord appeared, he might not be able to stop his majesty. That slut must die. As expected, the Di Zun's face became even colder. The dangerous glint in his eyes was like a cold blade. Gong Xiaozhu was scared stiff. But his heart was excited. Overlord. The emperor suppressed the fear in his heart and glared at Gong Xiaozhu. But Gong Xiaozhu didn't even look at him. Her face was distorted as she looked at Dmo Xian with an obvious intention. Without waiting for the emperor to speak, a gust of wind blew over. That shimmering purple figure had already disappeared from everyone's line of sight. In the air, the man's deep and icy cold voice floated down, like a voice from hell demanding for their lives. The matter regarding the Heaven Realm's princess, after this lord has found her. Be prepared to pay the price for this. Icy cold words. It fell into everyone's heart. It was like an icicle ruthlessly piercing into their hearts. The fastest update speed. Hurry up and read it. Download address, mobile phone reading. Chapter 4381. Yiqing Luo pulled back her thoughts from the darkness. When she opened her eyes, there was an intense piercing pain coming from her head. She raised her hand and pressed hard on her head. After she sat up from the bed, she saw a wooden chair was placed by the side of the bed. The man sat on top, leaning against the back of the chair as he closed his eyes to rest. On that cold face, his features seemed as though they were meticulously sculpted. When he closed his eyes without the usual cold intent, it looked extremely pleasing to the eye. That thick eyelashes under his squinted eyelids projected two curved shadows. It made the lines on his face look much gentler. Yiqing Luo also noticed that under the man's brows, there was an obvious greenish black. Apparently, it was the fatigue from not sleeping for a long time. The man was really too tired. So tired that Yiqing Luo had already sat up, but he didn't notice it. Yiqing Luo slowly put down the hand on her head, as her slender brows creased slightly. The memories before she fainted started to recollect in her mind. She had fallen into Zhu Wu Xian's trap, which led to her fainting again. Where did Zhu Wu Xian bring her to? Why did it feel that? This bunch of powerful people liked to kidnap people without any explanation, then secretly bring them to an unfamiliar place. Yiqing Luo lifted the blanket and got off the bed. Her head felt dizzy. Her body was still a little weak. After standing there silently for several breaths, her body gradually got used to it and she felt slightly more comfortable. She clenched her fists as she lowered her eyes to size up her body. She didn't feel any other uncomfortable feeling on her body. Zhu Wu Xian didn't do anything to her body after she fainted. After stretching her limbs, Yiqing Luo then sized up the surrounding environment. This was a very spacious bedroom. The furnishings were all of high quality. The style was very simple. Just like Zhu Wu Xian giving off a cold intent. It wasn't hard to tell that this place should be Zhu Wu Xian's personal space. She walked one round around the room. She had just reached the other side of the bed, which was the direction where Zhu Wu Xian's back was facing. Yiqing Luo suddenly stopped in her tracks. This place was a study table and behind it was a huge bookshelf. What attracted Yiqing Luo was neither the desk nor the bookshelf. Instead, there were paintings hanging on the bookshelves. The painting depicted a woman. Just one look and Yiqing Luo recognized the lady in the painting. It was her. On the desk, on the bookshelf, they were all portraits of her. There was laughter and anger. All kinds of actions and gestures were drawn very vividly. Yiqing Luo was stunned by this scene. These were all drawn by Zhu Wuxin? Why did he draw so many portraits of her? Yiqing Luo had an indescribable feeling in her heart. Should she say that Zhu Wuxin was deeply in love with her? But when she thought of how Zhu Wuxin had drawn so many portraits of her without her knowledge, she could not help but shudder. He felt uncomfortable all over. Then should he say that Zhu Wuxin was a pervert? However, those scrolls only contained her smile and frown. There was nothing that crossed the line. She slowly walked forward and looked at the scrolls on the bookshelf one by one. His gaze finally fell on the desk. The ink on the painting on the desk was still wet. It should have been drawn not too long ago. It was the picture of her unconscious on the bed. She just stretched out her hand and wanted to pick up that portrait. But her hand touched the inkstone by the side. A "pah" sound was heard. The thing fell heavily onto the ground. The ink splattered onto the ground, rendering mottled traces. This commotion also woke up the person who was in a deep sleep. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4382. Zhu Wuxian's first reaction when he opened his eyes was to look towards the bedside. On discovering that there was no one on the bed, he abruptly stood up as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a young lady standing by the study table. She was staring at the painting of a beauty that he had drawn earlier on the table. That cold and handsome face had a rare shade of red. Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo wasn't flustered because she had knocked the inkstone over. She slowly raised her head as she met Zhu Wuxian's face. "These are all drawn by you?" Zhu Wuxian stood up as he walked towards Yiqing Luo. Finally he stopped opposite Yiqing Luo. He lowered his eyes as he looked at the sleeping painting of a beauty on the table. He stretched out his hand as though he wanted to caress that beauty's sleeping face. But the ink which had yet to dry made him retract his hand. "Why did you draw me?" Yiqing Luo was so infuriated by Zhu Wuxian's action that she laughed. He had been caught by her secretly drawing her and he was still so calm. And even touched her in the painting right in front of her. This was a perverted man, right? Zhu Wuxian's gaze was still on the young lady in the painting. But the expression on his face was obviously not as cold and hard as before, and had become much gentler. His thin lips were frivolous as it rose into an arc, brimming with youth. "Because I like it, so I drew it." She had to admit it. Zhu Wuxian smiled. It really made one's heart flutter. But Yiqing Luo expressed that there wasn't any fluctuation in her heart. Her expression was gloomy and her long and narrow eyes were filled with a piercingly cold glint when she raised her eyes. "Your liking is really scary." Zhu Wuxian only laughed lightly as he didn't give any response. The gaze which he used to look at the young lady in the painting became even gentler. "Yiqing Luo, this feeling was really weird." Her pink lips pursed as she stretched out her hand and pulled the painting on the table to one side. Zhu Wuxian's expression suddenly changed as he tried to snatch the painting back. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back as she avoided Zhu Wuxian's outstretched hand. Her brows rose as she looked at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "I'm right here, what's the point of you staring at the painting?" Zhu Wuxian's vision finally shifted from the painting to Yiqing Luo. His dark eyes were very deep, rippling with emotions that ordinary people could not understand. "Put the painting down." His voice was very calm and there was not much emotion in it. Yiqing Luo sneered. "Zhu Wuxian, don't you have anything to explain to me?" Zhu Wuxian's voice was very indifferent. "What's done is done. Even if I explain it, it won't change your opinion of me. What on earth do you want to do?" Yiqing Luo slammed the painting in her hands onto the table heavily. The ink, which had not yet dried, blurred that alluring sleeping face because of the wind. Zhu Wuxian looked at the painting and the ink that had spread out. There seemed to be a storm surging in his eyes. But very quickly he stopped. His thin lips moved slightly and he lightly spat out a sentence. "I have to draw again." Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo had a powerless feeling as though she had punched into cotton. No matter how she yelled at Zhu Wuxian, how she vented her anger, Zhu Wuxian ignored her. His attention wasn't placed on what she asked at all. Or perhaps he totally didn't care about these words. Or perhaps he had already thought of the consequences right from the start when he did this. So he was already mentally prepared. Zhu Wuxian took out that already destroyed painting from Yiqing Luo's palm. His actions were very careful, as though he was handling some kind of treasure, until the painting paper was taken out. He then slowly held the painting paper in his palm. The fastest update speed. Hurry up and read it. TXT download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4383. Yiqing Luo was unable to describe the strange scene in front of her. A person so cold that the air condensed into frost. He was actually holding a piece of paper that was already mottled with ink. He looked very pious. No matter how he looked at it, it was so strange that it made his hair stand on end. When he held the drawing paper in his hand, he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. "After sleeping for 2 days you should be hungry. I'll go prepare some food for you." With that, he held the drawing paper and was about to leave. Yiqing Luo quickly chased after him. "I want to go out." After the meal, I'll walk around the residence with you. Zhu Wuxin nodded. Yiqing Luo replied, you know what I mean. Take a walk around the mansion? Did she have nothing better to do? Zhu Wuxin's gaze was indifferent. Don't even think about leaving this residence. Without my permission you won't be able to leave. Yiqing Luo replied, how long do you want to keep me locked up for? When you accept me. Zhu Wuxin's tone was very indifferent. Impossible. Yiqing Luo replied without a second thought. Then stay here with me for the rest of your life. Zhu Wuxian's expression was indifferent as his deep eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo with a peculiar gentleness. To be able to stay with you like this for the rest of my life, I'm also willing. Are you crazy? Yiqing Luo's anger was unbearable. Imprisoning me here is because you like me? Zhu Wuxian's expression didn't change. Yiqing Luo, how do you know that you won't fall in love with me if you haven't tried? What do you think I am? Yiqing Luo laughed angrily. I'm a toy that can be controlled by others, right? Do I have to live my life according to what you think I am? What kind of life do you want to give me, and I have to live according to the life you give me? Yiqing Luo sneered. Zhu Wuxian, do you like me or do you like the me that you want to mold? Do you really like him? No matter what Yiqing Luo said or scolded, Zhu Wuxin's expression did not change in the slightest. He quietly listened to Yiqing Luo finish her words. Then he said calmly, looks like you have a lot of strength. I don't think you need to eat. Coo. His stomach growled in response. This level of coordination made Yiqing Luo want to have a deep conversation with her stomach. Staring at her stomach, Zhu Wuxin slowly turned around and walked out of the room. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, wanting to call out to Zhu Wuxian. But in the end, he still directly covered his growling stomach and angrily sat on the chair. Zhu Wuxin was completely unmoved. No matter what she said, she was unable to change Zhu Wuxin's mind. What exactly was she going to do to leave this damned place? She couldn't just sit and wait for death. Her sudden disappearance would definitely make Huang Fusheng and the others anxious. Moreover, she had absolutely no idea where she was right now. There were still 4 days before the ranking list. She had to leave this place before the excellence list was activated. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with anxiety. Zhu Wuxin had already quickly served a few light dishes to the table. Yiqing Luo took a look at the dishes and took a look at Zhu Wuxian, suppressing her stomach which was tempted by the fragrance. Surely this isn't poisoned again, right? You're in my hands, there's no need for me to hurt you. Zhu Wuxin's pupils flashed past a sliver of hurt, but the tone he used to reply her was extremely indifferent. Yiqing Luo pouted, now you no longer have any credibility. Zhu Wuxian's pupils contracted slightly. The hand which was hammered by the side of his body also clenched tightly. The update speed is the fastest, hurry up and read it. TXT download address, phone reading. Chapter 4384. There was no credibility left. Oh, that's right. In Yiqing Luo's heart. What else could he have to be trusted? To Yiqing Luo's malicious words. He was just a disgusting person who was infatuated with her. However, it didn't matter. Start with making this decision. He had already thought of the current ending. Yiqing Luo no longer trusted him and did not treat him as a friend. None of that mattered anymore. In any case, she would be by his side. That was enough. Zhu Wuxian retracted the whirlpool in his eyes as he slowly and unhurriedly placed the dishes in front of Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't even spare him a glance. He took an empty bowl from the side and started to eat by himself. As for the dishes that Zhu Wuxin had prepared, she didn't even look at them out of the corner of her eye. Zhu Wuxin did not show much emotion. He just sat there quietly waiting for her to eat. Between the two of them, no one spoke first. The silent atmosphere made the surroundings seem extremely oppressive. Yiqing Luo deliberately ate slowly. Zhu Wuxin was also very patient and did not rush him. Just like that, the meal lasted for at least an hour. Yiqing Luo then put down the chopsticks in her hands. Are you full? Zhu Wuxin asked. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about him as she slowly stood up and walked towards the door. Zhu Wuxin stood up and followed behind her. Where do you want to go? Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at him. Didn't I say that after the meal we'll go out for a walk? Are you lying to me again? Zhu Wuxin's face paled slightly. No, if you want to go, go. I'll accompany you. No need. Yiqing Luo rejected without hesitation. I want to walk alone. Zhu Wuxian's eyes sunk as he didn't reply Yiqing Luo's words, but his footsteps still followed behind her. Yiqing Luo took a few steps and suddenly stopped. She sneered, her eyes full of mockery. What? Are you still worried about me and your territory? Didn't you say that as long as you're unwilling, I won't be able to take even half a step out of this mansion? Since you're so confident, why are you following me closely? I'm not that, before he could say the word meaning. But he was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo's mocking gaze. He retracted his gaze and felt bitter in his heart. That was right, now he had completely lost the good impression in Yi Qing Luo's heart. Even if he explained, how could she believe him? I don't care what you mean. In short, I don't want to see your face. Yi Qing Luo spoke harshly and her words were filled with ridicule. Zhu Wuxin's heart felt like it had been stabbed several times. There was a tearing pain. His breathing was slightly ragged, but he tried his best to keep his voice steady. Okay. With that, he stopped in his tracks. Yi Qing Luo didn't even cast a glance at him as she quickly walked towards the small path in front. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared around the corner. Zhu Wuxin stood quietly on the spot, motionless. His eyes were cold and so was his expression. The hands hanging at the side of the body curled up one by one. It was as if he was suppressing some kind of emotion in his chest. After a long time, he closed his eyes and raised his head slightly. Obviously, everything she had done had already crossed his bottom line. But he still couldn't bear to kill her. He didn't want to let Yi Qing Luo off so easily. Therefore, he could only leave Yi Qing Luo by his side. Blame him? Hate him? No, it didn't matter. No matter how Yi Qing Luo treated him. Nothing could change the fact that she was by his side. She now only had him. She would only stay by his side. Forever, forever. Latest updates are the fastest to read it. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4385. On the other side, Yi Qing Luo, who had distanced herself from Zhu Wuxin, took a few steps and specially took a look behind her. She really didn't discover that Zhu Wuxin was following her. But she didn't know if it was an illusion. She felt an inexplicable chill down her spine. It seemed as though someone was muttering her name. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her arms as she sensed the surroundings once again. After ascertaining that there wasn't anyone else's presence in the surroundings, she heaved a sigh of relief. The moment she woke up, the person she saw was Zhu Wuxin. She really didn't want to see Zhu Wuxin's face. To think that she trusted him so much. After he was wrong once, twice, she still chose to trust him. But how did Zhu Wuxin repay her? She thought that he kept saying that he liked her and then occasionally appeared to save her. She should forgive him repeatedly for everything? He wasn't Dmo Xian. On what basis did he need her to forgive him? Zhu Wuxin's actions this time was really completely and utterly killing the Zhu Wuxin who had once saved her in her heart. She absolutely could not stay in this place forever. Yi Qing Luo perked up her spirits as she started to survey her surroundings, as she drew out the topographic map of the places that she had walked past in her mind. The path that she was walking on should be the direction of the residence's garden. Along the way there were green trees and flower gardens, ponds and fake mountains. The scenery was extremely beautiful. She walked for a long time but she didn't see anyone. It was as though there was only her and Zhu Wuxin in the entire residence. Two people. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as a strange brilliance flowed beneath her eyes. Was Zhu Wuxin really so confident that she was unable to leave this residence? All of a sudden, she wanted to find out what method he had used to be so sure that she would not be able to walk out of the mansion. Yi Qing Luo raised her head as her gaze looked towards the wall, which was not too far away. She speedily surveyed her surroundings. Finally, she found an extremely good spot. A huge ancient tree was planted right next to the wall at the corner of the building. She agilely climbed onto the tree. Standing on a thick and sturdy tree branch, Yi Qing Luo looked towards the other side of the wall. The scene in front of her shocked Yi Qing Luo. Looking over, they were mountains and rivers that were connected to each other. This mansion was located in the middle of these mountains and rivers. The most shocking thing was, beside the wall there seemed to be a layer of ripples. She leaned against the branch and crawled forward, closer to the wall. On all sides of the wall, the rippling water could even reflect her face. Yi Qing Luo, since when could water float in the air? Yi Qing Luo was just about to reach out and touch it. His sleeve was stopped by a force. The force was very small, but it was enough to tug at her sleeve and pull her back. Yi Qing Luo lowered her head and saw Qi Yan, who was biting her sleeve with its sharp beak, flapping its wings hard. Yi Qing Luo withdrew her hand and hooked the little fellow in her arms. Where did you run off to? This fellow, relying on its small size and the fact that it could fly in the sky, ran happily, disappearing from time to time. Qi Yan let go of her sleeve and found a comfortable place in her arms. The whole bird collapsed on her. Fortunately, I hid in your sleeve and followed you quietly. Otherwise, you would have been executed on the spot by that man who looks cold on the outside but is a beast on the inside. Yiqing Luo, cold on the outside but a beast on the inside? Was it referring to Zhu Wuxian? Isn't it him? Qi Yan fluttered as it climbed up again, its red eyes opened wide. While you were unconscious, he hugged and touched you. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4386. Indulging in her beauty. Touch. Zhu Wuxian's character, he didn't seem like someone who would take advantage of others? Even if he had turned dark. But it wasn't to that extent. Right? Qi Yan's little face creased as all his phoenix feathers wrinkled up. I saw it with my own eyes. He was groping all over your body and grabbing your hand. There was one time when he stared at you and almost kissed you. If it wasn't for the fact that I set the room on fire at the critical moment, you would have betrayed the Overlord. Yiqing Luo? Based on her understanding of Zhu Wuxian. Touching here and there, probably searching for anything on her body that would expose his information. Or perhaps he was researching the reason why her profound grade had disappeared. As for the hand that grabbed her. Yiqing Luo's eyes drooped as she looked at the things on her hand. There were quite a number of things on her hands that made people jealous. A profound phoenix ring and azure dew ring. And the most important. Azure dew bracelet. Zhu Wuxian grabbed her hand. If he was researching on the profound phoenix ring or god relic, then it was still alright. If he had discovered the azure dew bracelet, then that would be troublesome. Yiqing Luo gently caressed it. The circle of flower petals pattern on her wrist, which looked like a birthmark, didn't look strange at all. Especially after losing the profound grade, the spiritual connection with the azure dew bracelet had been severed. This azure dew bracelet was really just like a very ordinary birthmark. Zhu Wuxian shouldn't have discovered the azure dew bracelet. And the last one. To kiss her. Yiqing Luo remained silent. Thinking of Zhu Wuxian's drawing of her all over the room, she was on the verge of turning dark. She felt that. Perhaps he was really addicted to her beauty, so he couldn't help himself. Yiqing Luo rubbed Qi Yan's little head. Yes, all thanks to you for protecting my chastity. I'll have to trouble you in the future to help me keep an eye on him. This little fellow loved to hear praises for it. Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't be stingy with her praises. Qi Yan proudly tilted its little head. Yiqing Luo asked again, didn't he discover you when you set fire to the room? No. Qi Yan rolled its eyes. Who am I? I'm one of the 4 holy beasts, the vermilion bird. What flowed in his body was the blood of a noble saint beast. How could he have discovered me? It's good that you didn't find him. If he had, Zhu Wuxian wouldn't have let Qi Yan wander around the mansion. After all, Zhu Wuxian would not allow any help that could allow her to escape from the mansion. Even if Scarlet Flame hasn't recovered his original strength. But it was also a helping hand for her. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the front again, at the endless mountains and rivers. Can you walk out of this residence? I can't. Qi Yan answered decisively, there is a boundary outside this mansion. As soon as I get close, I will be discovered by the person who set up the boundary. It looked like Zhu Wuxian had made up his mind to keep her in the mansion. Yiqing Luo leaned back on the tree branch. Then how should we get out? Getting out. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult. Qi Yan flapped its wings. These 2 days when you were unconscious, I specially walked 1 round around this godforsaken place. The land area here is especially wide and there are numerous courtyards, as well as gardens and martial arts halls, etc. At least, it's not any worse off than the imperial palace which I had seen previously. Moreover, other than the 2 of you, there are only 2 young ladies who look at most 12 or 13 years old, working as maids here. Such a huge mansion and there were only 2 maids? End of this chapter. Chapter 4387. Looking at the scenery, you want to interfere? Those 2 maids don't know how to speak, like puppets without souls. Qi Yan told Yiqing Luo everything that he had investigated these 2 days. Following that, he arrogantly raised his slender neck, waiting for Yiqing Luo's praise. His red eyes were filled with complacency. Yiqing Luo naturally cooperated as she rubbed the little fellow's head and smiled. You're indeed my little Qi Yan, so smart. She hugged the little fellow into her arms. Beautifully done, continue to work hard next time, I'm looking forward to your good news. Qi Yan smiled as his red beast eyes squinted as he snorted. Wait for this sacred beast to save you, this sacred beast will bring you along to fly, remember to think of how to thank this sacred beast. Alright, she would praise him a little. The entire beast was floating. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo's ears moved sensitively. Something was brushing past the grass. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened as she speedily pressed the little thing into her sleeves. Coincidentally, a cold voice rang in his ears. What are you doing up there? Zhu Wuxen rode on the wind as he stood under the tree, looking up at her. A blazing robe fluttered along with the wind. It looked extremely elegant. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes and didn't even move as she scoffed. Obviously, I'm looking at the scenery. Zhu Wuxen frowned. This ancient tree was connected to the surrounding wall. Yiqing Luo sat on the tree branch and could easily see through the wall to see what was happening outside. Was she trying to escape? Master Zhu, don't tell me. I'm just looking at the scenery, you want to interfere? The young lady's clear voice was mixed with some ridicule as it rang again. He blinked his eyes. The light returned back. He saw a young lady lying on top of that ancient tree. Her blazing red robe drooped down. When the breeze brushed past, her robe fluttered like an excited flame. Her unbound black hair cascaded down, merging with the color of the raging flames. It made the young lady look like a fairy in the fire. When she said that, she specially glanced sideways. Her beautiful face exuded a suffocating charm. For a moment, Zhu Wuxan was stunned. Dong, there was a soft sound. The girl jumped down from the ancient tree. He stood in front of Zhu Wuxing. That sound also startled Zhu Wuxing back to his senses. Seeing that the girl was already in front of him, his eyes flashed a trace of imperceptible panic. Your profound rank hasn't recovered yet, jumping from such a high place, what if you get hurt? He reached out to hold the girl's arm. The girl walked past him and continued forward. She also avoided his outstretched hand. Zhu Wuxen took a look at his hand, which was frozen in midair as his fingers clenched into a fist shape, retracting his hand as he followed closely behind Yiqing Luo. He had only taken a few steps. Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. Her hand seemed to have been pricked by something and she jerked back. What's the matter? Zhu Wuxen saw Yiqing Luo's actions and immediately went up to check on her condition. Yiqing Luo lowered her head to look at her own hand and struggled free from his grasp. I'm fine. Your expression doesn't look like you're fine. Zhu Wuxen insisted on not letting go. Stop fooling around, let me take a look. Yiqing Luo pushed him away forcefully as her breathing became hurried. She took a few steps back. Her body leaned against that ancient tree earlier. I said I'm fine, don't come over. Zhu Wuxen had no choice but to halt his footsteps as his vision fell onto her without blinking. His eyes filled with concern. All right, I won't go over. Update completed. Mwah. Zoamo, come. Put up your sabers, I'm not afraid of your sabers, Mo Badian have never been afraid of anyone. Mo family, hee the sabers can't do anything to you? Sisters, confiscate our Badian tickets. Zoamo, I admit defeat. You're the real treasure Badian. Asking for tickets, don't stop. End of this chapter. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4388. Yiqing Luo leaned against the ancient tree. This time she deeply felt. A scorching hot shiver came from her fingertips. It was the profound phoenix ring. The profound phoenix ring's activity. This also indicated that Ashen he had reached the heaven realm, and the distance between them wasn't far. Most importantly, under the situation where she didn't have any profound energy, the profound phoenix ring could still sense Ashen. Yiqing Luo couldn't suppress the excitement in her heart. But facing Zhu Wuxan, she couldn't show any signs of it. Moreover, it seemed that the moment she left the boundary of this ancient tree, the scorching sensation on her fingertips would disappear. Which meant to say, the connection with the profound dragon ring was the strongest here. Yiqing Luo didn't have any profound energy, so she couldn't use her mental energy to sense where the profound dragon ring was. But she could sense it, which meant that Dmo Xian, who was wearing the profound dragon ring, could sense it. She had to delay for a period of time here, to fight for more time for Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo's heart was surging with various emotions. But on the surface she didn't show any of it because of Zhu Wuxan. She raised her head slightly and met Zhu Wuxian's concerned eyes as her lips curled into a smile, filled with a thick sense of ridicule. You really treat me as a prisoner. No matter where I go, I have to be in your line of sight? Zhu Wuxian's lips moved as he wanted to say something. But when the words reached the tip of his tongue, he swallowed it back. Yiqing Luo sneered as she shot a cold glance at Zhu Wuxan. She and Zhu Wuxian had separated for at most 2 incenses time. Zhu Wuxian came looking for her. Was it because he couldn't give her too much alone time? Or was it because she touched the barrier and attracted Zhu Wuxian's attention? Or perhaps Zhu Wuxian knew that Dmo Xian had come to the heaven realm and was searching for her whereabouts. So he panicked, anxiously looking for her, wanting to ascertain if she was still around? Yiqing Luo indicated that it was most likely the third guess. She squinted her eyes slightly as a cold glint flashed across her long and narrow eyes. The words that came out of his mouth were still so harsh. I said, I just want to be alone. I don't want to see your face. You just woke up and your body is still very weak. Zhu Wuxin's voice softened. Go back to your room and rest first. Don't be exposed to the wind for too long. I know my own body. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly. I know that there's an enchantment set up outside your residence and I'm someone without any profound energy, so there's no way for me to pass through your enchantment, so you don't need to worry about me leaving. As she spoke, the mockery in her eyes intensified. Zhu Wuxian's brows creased tightly as his grave and stern face was filled with helplessness. I'm only concerned about you. Yiqing Luo, can you not use such words to stab me? Yiqing Luo sneered. From the moment you schemed against me, haven't you already expected that there would be such an outcome? If you don't want to listen to me, then let me out. Impossible. Zhu Wuxin's expression darkened. Don't even think about leaving this place. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. Since you don't intend to let me leave this place and I have no way to break the enchantment, then let me enjoy the scenery here alone. Zhu Wuxian's expression turned even more solemn. Yiqing Luo, I don't want to do anything that makes you hate me, so don't force me. Yiqing Luo laughed when she heard that. Could it be that the things that he did were all forced by her? Could it be that he had betrayed her trust and was also forced by her? Did it need to be so comical? She had almost believed this excuse. Okay? Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4389. The disdain and ridicule on Yiqing Luo's face was totally unconcealed. In Zhu Wuxin's black eyes, there seemed to be some raging waves surging unceasingly. All of a sudden he moved. His figure appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm. That hand was the hand which was wearing the profound phoenix ring. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly tensed up. He found out. Yiqing Luo's mind was whirling as she was thinking of ways to cover up this matter, to fight for more time for Xian. But at the next moment, Zhu Wuxian's hand suddenly increased the strength. Her entire body fell heavily into Zhu Wuxian's firm chest. His arm pressed down on her with extreme force, making her unable to move at all. A faint plum fragrance invaded all her senses. She wanted to struggle. But in exchange, the man hugged her even more tightly. She almost couldn't breathe. You hate me that much? Zhu Wuxian's hoarse voice was filled with bitterness. He spoke word by word as though he was venting the anger in his chest. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply, he pressed the person in his arms tightly as he gritted his teeth. Even if you hate me, I will not let go of you. Yiqing Luo expressed that she was almost out of breath. At the same time as she struggled, she heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily Zhu Wuxian hadn't discovered that she and Dmo Xian had already contacted each other. But now was indeed not the time to stay here any longer. Based on Zhu Wuxian's acute character, if she continued to stay, it might possibly arouse his suspicions. Yiqing Luo hid the deep thoughts in her eyes as she pushed the person in front of her and struggled to break free from his hand. Are you trying to suffocate me to death? This roar was a little muffled. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have regained a trace of rationality from his crazed state. His eyes, which were as dark as a lake, seemed to be gathering light, and they shrunk little by little. This strange look made Yiqing Luo have an inexplicable strange feeling. Zhu Wuxian's hand which was placed on Yiqing Luo's shoulder was still trembling slightly. He looked at the girl in his arms, whose face was flushed red and filled with displeasure. The vortexes in his eyes grew increasingly ferocious. Suddenly he clasped Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly, pulling her along as he took quick steps towards the courtyard which he had stayed in previously. This time round Yiqing Luo didn't create any trouble. Instead he cooperated and followed behind Zhu Wuxin. When Zhu Wuxin turned around, she quickly hid Qi Yan in the flower bed on the side. Perhaps Zhu Wuxin's emotions were unstable at the moment. He did not notice Yiqing Luo's little movements. Along the way he was about 5 steps away from the ancient tree. The burning sensation coming from the profound phoenix ring on his fingertip gradually subsided. The connection was completely broken. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and stared at the profound phoenix ring which had returned to normal as she pursed her lips slightly. Her slender fingers clenched a little tighter. I have to find another opportunity to come here and give it a try. Just now, Xian should have been able to determine her location. She was thinking about the profound phoenix ring in Xian. She totally didn't notice it. That man who was walking in front and tugging her arm had such a strange expression on his face. Sometimes his expression was grave and stern, but it was filled with pain. Sometimes his expression was twisted as though he was struggling with something. That pair of serene black eyes had a strange glint, which kept darting about, as though it wanted to devour the man's everything. The two of them had different thoughts in their minds. In this strange silence, they returned to their original room. Hurry up and read the latest updates. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4390. The room had already been tidied up. Those portraits of Yiqing Luo on the bookshelf had all been kept away. Even the inkstone that she had knocked over and the ink splattered all over the floor had been cleaned up. Not a single blemish could be seen. Standing at the door, Yiqing Luo struggled to break free from his clamping hands. This time Zhu Wuxian let go very quickly. After she broke free, Yiqing Luo stood at the original spot as she looked at him calmly. Since you want me to stay here, then prepare a room for me. Zhu Wuxian, you stay here. I refuse. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with ridicule. I stay next door. Zhu Wuxian explained. I still refuse. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings. This room is filled with your scent. I don't want my body to be tainted with another man's scent. She paused as her vision swept past the study table. Moreover, a room for someone who harbors ill intentions towards me, it's scary for me to stay there. Zhu Wuxian's cold face moved slightly. His eyes were gloomy as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking, as though he was covered in frost. Yiqing Luo remained unmoved. Instead she met his gaze and looked at him calmly. After a long time, Zhu Wuxian turned around and walked out of the room. His silhouette looked very cold and fierce. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wuxian's departing back view. She had no intention to stop him. She walked into the inner hall and sat down by the side. Her fingers caressed the profound phoenix ring. Xian. When there was no news of Xian, she could still suppress the longing for Xian in her heart. But after sensing Xian's presence, she really was unable to suppress the longing in her heart. Missed him so much, missed him so much. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers held the profound phoenix ring tightly. Heaven Realm, Tianya Ridge's entrance. A group of people stood there as pairs of gazes congealed on the man in front. The man's back was facing them and he was as handsome as a god. His peerless face was filled with a grave expression. That pair of cold peach blossom eyes were swirling with a whirlpool. A strong gust of wind blew heavily against his purple robe. The profound wave's attack made his robe flutter. Broken? The man murmured in a low voice as he stared unblinkingly at the ring engraved with a dragon totem on his finger. Lord Dizun, what's broken? A group of people behind him immediately asked. If Yiqing Luo was here at this moment, he would definitely be surprised. Those brothers who had climbed up to the Earth domain with great difficulty and had yet to catch up with her had actually appeared in the Heaven domain. That group of people, aren't they, those few people from the World Mercenary Group? Diamo Xian's thin lips were tightly pursed, as his eyes seemed to be surging with perilous waves. The connection with Lil Luo has been broken. Just now, the few of them followed Zhu Wuxin's last traces and rushed to World Horizon Ridge to search for Yiqing Luo. Diamo Xian had been operating the Netherworld Dragon Ring. It was the moment they arrived at the Tianya Ridge. The Netherworld Dragon Ring reacted. It was as though Lil Luo was by his side. When he wanted to use the profound dragon ring to get in touch with Yiqing Luo, but all he got was a blank space. There was no response. He could sense the profound phoenix ring, but he didn't get any response from the profound phoenix ring's owner. This made Diamo Xian's heart felt as though there was a huge rock pressing on it. Whoever knew that just as he wanted to use the profound dragon ring to locate Yiqing Luo's exact location, the connection between the dragon and phoenix rings was suddenly cut off. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4391. Huang Fusheng's face turned pale. What happened to Luo? What did that mean? Dmo Xian's expression was solemn and cold as his eyes stared fixedly at the netherworld dragon ring. I don't know, but the only thing I can confirm is that Lil Luo should have been here before. Zhu Wuxia, that scoundrel, why did he bring Qing Luo to this kind of ghastly place for? Yan Shaoyi looked around at the terrifying dense forest as her face was filled with worry. Tinya Ridge was the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Basically, no one in the entire Heaven Realm would take things too hard and run over to Tinya Mountain Range to train. At most, it was used to punish clan members who had made mistakes. It could be said that in the entire Heaven Realm, throwing someone into the Tinya Ridge was the cruelest punishment. On the way to the Tinya Ridge, Huang Fuxing told Yan Shaoyi and the others about the legend of Tinya Ridge. Dmo Xian's deep and cold eyes looked at the group of people behind him as his voice was deep and cold. This lord will go in first, all of you wait outside. Let's go together as well. Qiao Jin hurriedly said. Little Jin, we're just dragging the ham if we go in. If we delay the overlord from saving little Qing Luo, we'll die very very miserably. An arm circled around Qiao Jin's shoulder. Zhou Mo, who had a devilish look on his face, hung limply on Qiao Jin's body. Qiao Jin hesitated. But, believe in the overlord, he cares about little Qing Luo more than anyone else here. Zomo's red phoenix eyes curved. He shot a glance in the direction of Gui Wu. Ah Wu, are you staying behind or going in? I'm waiting for someone. Gui Wu indifferently replied. Waiting for someone? Zhou Mo looked suspiciously from Qiao Jin's body to Gui Wu's. Waiting for who? Other than me, who else can you wait for? Gui Wu did not even look at him, nor did he have any intention of replying. The others didn't want to pay attention to this playful fox either. All of them looked at Dmo Xian, hoping to find out about Yi Qing Luo's news from his mouth. Brother-in-law Dizun? Is sister really inside? Kitty Li asked cautiously. She had signed a blood contract with her sister. However, she couldn't sense her sister's aura at all. It was as if the connection between her and her sister had been cut off. Dmo Xian's stern face was wrapped in a thin layer of frost. This lord cannot be certain. Kitty Li's little claws immediately clenched together. The two little ears on his head couldn't help but stand up. Dmo Xian's gaze looked towards the boundless dense forest ahead. The surrounding vines were like man-eating plants, filled with a strange aura. He ignored the people behind him and walked straight into the horizon ridge. The group of people behind him wanted to follow. But at the entrance of the Tinya Ridge, however, he still stopped in his tracks. Qing Luo will be fine, right? Yan Shaoyi nestled in Qiao Jin's arms as she lowered her head, her eyes filled with anxiety. Qiao Jin comforted him in a low voice. I believe in Dizun's judgment. It's already not easy for us to come to the Heaven Realm. If we follow them into the Tianya Mountain Range, there will be danger everywhere. No one knows what will happen. Let's wait here for the overlord to bring Qing Luo back. Everything. I'll leave it to Lord Dizun. Yi Qing Luo sat in the room for a short period of time. She heard a commotion outside the door. She didn't even raise her head as her voice was cold. Zhu Wuxia, either change my room or let me out. The fastest update speed, hurry up and read it. TXT download address, phone reading. Chapter 4392. Huang Fuxing's face turned pale. What happened to Luo? What did that mean? Dmo Xian's expression was solemn and cold as his eyes stared fixedly at the netherworld dragon ring. I don't know, but the only thing I can confirm is that Lil Luo should have been here before. Zhu Wuxia, that scoundrel, why did he bring Qing Luo to this kind of ghastly place for? Yan Shaoyi looked around at the terrifying dense forest as her face was filled with worry. Tinya Ridge was the most dangerous place in the Heaven Realm. Basically, no one in the entire Heaven Realm would take things too hard and run over to Tinya Mountain Range to train. At most, it was used to punish clan members who had made mistakes. It could be said that in the entire Heaven Realm, throwing someone into the Tinya Ridge was the cruelest punishment. On the way to the Tinya Ridge, Huang Fuxing told Yan Shaoyi and the others about the legend of Tinya Ridge. Dmo Xian's deep and cold eyes looked at the group of people behind him as his voice was deep and cold. This lord will go in first, all of you wait outside. Let's go together as well. Qiao Jin hurriedly said. Little Jin, we're just dragging the ham if we go in. If we delay the overlord from saving little Qing Luo, we'll die very very miserably. An arm circled around Qiao Jin's shoulder. Zhou Mo, who had a devilish look on his face, hung limply on Qiao Jin's body. Qiao Jin hesitated. But, Believe in the Overlord, he cares about little Qing Luo more than anyone else here. Zomo's red phoenix eyes curved. He shot a glance in the direction of Gui Wu. Ah Wu, are you staying behind or going in? I'm waiting for someone. Gui Wu indifferently replied. Waiting for someone? Zhou Mo looked suspiciously from Qiao Jin's body to Gui Wu's. Waiting for who? Other than me, who else can you wait for? Gui Wu did not even look at him, nor did he have any intention of replying. The others didn't want to pay attention to this playful fox either. All of them looked at Dmo Xian, hoping to find out about Yiqing Luo's news from his mouth. Brother-in-law Dizun? Is sister really inside? Kitty Li asked cautiously. She had signed a blood contract with her sister. However, she couldn't sense her sister's aura at all. It was as if the connection between her and her sister had been cut off. Dmo Xian's stern face was wrapped in a thin layer of frost. This lord cannot be certain. Kitty Li's little claws immediately clenched together. The two little ears on his head couldn't help but stand up. Dmo Xian's gaze looked towards the boundless dense forest ahead. The surrounding vines were like man-eating plants, filled with a strange aura. He ignored the people behind him and walked straight into the horizon ridge. The group of people behind him wanted to follow. But at the entrance of the Tinya Ridge, however, he still stopped in his tracks. Qing Luo will be fine, right? Yin Xiaoyi nestled in Qiao Jin's arms as she lowered her head, her eyes filled with anxiety. Qiao Jin comforted him in a low voice, I believe in Dizun's judgment. It's already not easy for us to come to the heaven realm. If we follow them into the Tianya mountain range, there will be danger everywhere. No one knows what will happen. Let's wait here for the Overlord to bring Qing Luo back. Everything. I'll leave it to Lord Dizun. Yiqing Luo sat in the room for a short period of time. She heard a commotion outside the door. Chapter 4393. For this kind of newbie who had just received part of the training and had yet to serve their master, their thoughts were mostly the cleanest. Especially for a young girl who didn't even know how to speak. It was even more convenient. But, although the young girl didn't know how to speak, but her expressions were very rich. Whatever Yiqing Luo asked, she was able to use her expressions to answer a part of it. Yiqing Luo could more or less decipher a rough idea. For example, they were suddenly brought to this residence by Zhu Wu Xan 3 days ago. Zhu Wu Xan only instructed them to serve the lady in the residence, which was Yiqing Luo. But this was also the first time they met her. 3 days ago? Yiqing Luo remembered that she should have been unconscious for 2 days. Which meant that she was brought to this residence 2 days ago. Which meant that, right from the start, Zhu Wu Xian had planned to imprison her here? She scoffed lightly as her brows were filled with cold ridicule. He had indeed planned it well. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly. The young girl who was leading the way revealed some fear on her face when she heard her laughter. As though she didn't understand which sentence she had said wrongly. Yiqing Luo? Did she look like a cruel person to him? Why was this young lady so easily frightened by her? Where are you bringing me to? She changed the topic. They walked for about half an incense's time. They had already walked past a courtyard. He turned into another courtyard. The young lady had no intention of stopping. What trick was Zhu Wu Xan trying to play? After walking for a while more, the young girl stopped at the door of a room and made a gesture towards her. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked at the room in front of her. She stretched out her hand and directly pushed open the door. What entered her eyes was an extremely luxurious ladies' room. It was separated into 2 rooms. The outer hall was clean and tidy and the things displayed were all things which ladies loved. But it was exquisite and luxurious everywhere. Yiqing Luo could tell with just one look. This room was so clean that there was no trace of anyone staying in it. This was the room which Zhu Wu Xan prepared for her? The young girl bowed towards her and used her hand gestures to express her meaning, which probably meant that this courtyard was her place. This room was her lady's room. Following that, he took out a bell from his bosom and respectfully handed it over to Yiqing Luo. He hinted to her that if she needed them for anything, she could ring the bell and they would rush over. After explaining these things, the little girl retreated. His speed was so fast that he looked like he was fleeing for his life. Yiqing Luo took a look at the bell in her hand as a sharp glint flashed past her eyes. She casually tossed the bell into the air. As the bell fell, the gourd flame fan in his hand opened up, turning into a biting cold energy. Kacha! The bell broke into 2 halves. A wisp of extremely faint profound wave overflowed from the bell. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she stared at that overflowing profound wave, disappearing into the air. She sneered coldly and twitched the corner of her lips. She couldn't hide the mockery in her eyes. You want to trick me with this little trick? Did Zhu Wuxin think that he could lower her guard against a little girl who didn't know how to speak? But did he forget? For her, everything about him was worthy of her suspicion. This was his territory. The young girl belonged to him. How could she possibly believe him? Yiqing Luo didn't even take a look at the bell, which had broken into two halves, as she turned around and walked into the room, closing the door. In a room in the neighboring courtyard. It was so dark that one couldn't see anything in the room when suddenly a sound of something breaking was heard. End of this chapter. Chapter 4394. Romance website. Trash 7th Missy. Overlord, be gentle with your love. Latest chapter. Yo, you're trying to spy on someone but got discovered? A lazy voice was particularly clear in the pitch-black room. Following that voice, the room was gradually lit up with candlelight, lighting up the surroundings. A tall and handsome figure slowly walked to the side of the desk. The man was dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe, which hung loosely on his body, revealing a large area of skin. His long hair was not tied up as it hung loosely on his shoulders. His entire person was lazy and carefree. Both his hands were propped on the study table. In front of him was a bronze mirror. On the bronze mirror there were numerous cracks. What are you here for? The man in front of the study table had an icy cold expression as he shifted his gaze away from the bronze mirror. To see you chase after a young lady. The lazy man pulled a chair over and sat down on the other side of the study table. As his loose robe fluttered, his naked long legs were faintly discernible. Zhu Wuxen took a glance and his expression turned uglier. Scram. The lazy man lowered his eyes as he looked at his fair thighs and pulled the loose robe over to cover it. I'm not here to seduce you. Why are you reacting so strongly for? Could it be that you have a reaction towards the sexy me? Green veins popped out on Zhu Wuxen's forehead. Scram yourself, or do I have to beat you out? Ha ha ha. The lazy man looked at Zhu Wuxen's raging look with satisfaction as he maintained a lazy expression. I haven't seen your angry face for a long time. I miss it so much. After listening to this sentence, Zhu Wuxen's expression stiffened, and after some time, he slowly retracted all the emotions on his face. It turned back into a cold, expressionless expression. He pursed his lips as he looked coldly at the man's face. Why didn't you stay in your upper profound hall? Why did you run over to the heaven realm? Upper profound hall. If Yiqing Luo was present, she would definitely recognize him. This lazy and carefree man, wasn't he the Nirvana Realm's heavenly academy, the hidden upper profound hall? Hall master. You can come, why can't I? The hall master smiled as he replied. Zhu Wuxen glanced at him. The palace master shrugged his shoulders and raised his hands in surrender. I'm just here to see how far you've gone in your pursuit of the lady and whether you need my help. What kind of rotten ideas did you come up with? At the mention of this, Zhu Wuxin's gaze became even colder. He abruptly reached out and grabbed the temple master's collar. What nonsense are you saying that you can move a woman's heart by being gentler and saying more sweet nothings? That's utter nonsense. Yes. His skill in flirting with girls was very strong. It was all taught by this Ascendant Hall master of the Ascendant Hall. The palace master shrugged his shoulders and said helplessly, don't you know very well how difficult the lady you've taken a fancy to is? Zhu Wuxin's expression stiffened. Moreover, it's not like you don't know that she is dead set on that person. The palace master continued, it would have been fine if you wanted a virgin, but you just had to want a woman whose heart already belonged to someone. Zhu Wuxin's hand that was grabbing his collar also froze. Then, his fingers released the temple master one by one. His hands clenched into fists as he sat back on the chair. The palace master looked at the ugly expression on Zhu Wuxin's face and wanted to say something, but in the end, it turned into a helpless sigh. You reap what you sow. I'm so unlucky to have a brother like you. He picked up that cracked bronze mirror on the table. The moment he touched it, the broken pieces of the bronze mirror all fell onto the table. Brother, your action of trying to spy on her but being discovered by her, it's hard not to save her. Chapter 4395. The bell was the medium to monitor Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had cut the bell into two halves, thus breaking the connection between the bell and the bronze mirror. Zhu Wuxen's fist, which was placed on the table, clenched even tighter. The green veins on his palm could be seen faintly. Hall Master's gaze swept past his face. You really intend to imprison her for life? Chu Wuxian's eyes flickered dark and deep. This time? No one can think of taking her away from my identity. Hall Master's pupils shrunk slightly. But that handsome and lazy face didn't have much emotion. He lazily leaned against the back of the chair as he squinted his eyes and spoke in disdain. Previously, when you brought her to my place, I advised you to take the opportunity to eat her up. She has become your woman, so are you still afraid that she will leave you? But you insisted on waiting for her to be willing before you touch her. Look at you now. Don't talk about touching her. Even if you want to get close to her, you will probably be despised to death. Zhu Wuxian glanced at him coldly. Do you think everyone is like you? But what you're doing now is no different from eating her up. Hall Master didn't think much of it, but his words hit the nail on the head. Do you think that not touching her is the greatest respect for her and you will be able to maintain a friendly relationship with her on the surface? But have you forgotten? That lady's wild nature is hard to tame. You've lied to her once or twice and imprisoned her here. Do you think she will still treat you as a friend? Chu Wuxian's eyes instantly congealed as the expression on his face turned steely green. Don't stare at me, I'm speaking the truth. Hall Master raised his hand and blocked Zhu Wuxian's icy cold vision. Since things have already come to this, you might as well sleep with her now. Zhu Wuxian's eyes turned colder and colder. Like a 10,000-year-old frost mountain, it enveloped everything in the surroundings. Hall Master shrunk backwards but still braced himself and said, Everyone says that women wear pajamas. You use a man's ability to conquer her so that she can't leave you. Zhu Wuxian's eyes stared at Hall Master without blinking. Hall Master blinked his eyes. The two of them exchanged glances. The room was silent. The Temple Master blinked again and nodded at him. Trust me, this is the ultimate technique for chasing girls. A subtle change flashed through Zhu Wuxian's eyes. Yiqing Luo checked the room, which no one had ever stayed in from the beginning to the end. He confirmed that there was no sign of Zhu Wuxian's aura. He found a chair and sat down. He didn't know what was wrong with Zhu Wuxian. After changing her room, and even tried to monitor her movements in the room? If not for the fact that he knew that Zhu Wuxian wasn't that kind of person, with filthy thoughts, he wouldn't have believed it. She almost suspected that Zhu Wuxian was really possessed by a pervert. She lowered her eyes and looked at the ring engraved with a phoenix on her finger. She sighed softly. Zhu Wuxian was becoming more and more abnormal. She had to quickly think of a way to leave this place. The profound phoenix ring had sensed it the last time he was at that ancient tree. She had to go to the ancient tree again. Just as he was thinking, Yiqing Luo suddenly felt a scorching sensation on her fingertips. His finger seemed to have been pricked by something. It was the same feeling as when she was at the ancient tree. Her eyes shone as she speedily raised her hand and her fingertips touched the Ming mirror as she excitedly asked in a probing tone, Ah Xian, is that you? Her voice was filled with cautiousness and anticipation, but she was afraid that she would be disappointed. Chapter 4396. But there was no response from the profound phoenix ring. Yiqing Luo didn't give up as she pursed her lips and called out again, Ah Xian, Ah Xian. The air was still deathly silent. Yiqing Luo's heart felt as though it had fallen from the clouds into the abyss. No response from Ah Xian. Still no response from Ah Xian. She squeezed her eyes shut. Her arms hung limply by her side. Was she disappointed? Of course she was disappointed. She missed Ah Xian so much that she was going crazy. The profound phoenix ring on her fingertips was still burning and the vibration was still stimulating her senses. She didn't move, allowing the profound phoenix ring to release its energy. Just at this moment, like an electric current, an intermittent voice rang in her ears, Little Luo, That voice sounded like a phone call with a bad signal. It was intermittent and mixed with electricity. But even so, Yiqing Luo still heard that voice and the words that were spat out. Her body suddenly tensed up. His eyes, which had been closed, quickly opened. Her eyes looked at the profound phoenix ring in disbelief. That originally dead heart in his chest suddenly began to beat vigorously, as though it was going to jump out from her throat. She raised her hand in front of her and stared at the profound phoenix ring. Her eyes slowly turned red. Ah Xian, little Luo, The voice gradually became clearer. The man's deep and magnetic voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Like a soft feather, it spread out in her heart little by little, causing ripples to appear. Yiqing Luo's heart tightened. Her pink lips gradually curved into a beautiful smile. Ah Xian. Her fingers gently touched the profound phoenix ring. as though it was caressing the man's face. Her voice revealed a slight tremble. Ah Xian? Ah Xian. Her longing for Dmo Xian. At this moment, it was uncontrollably pouring out. She kept calling out Dmo Xian's name, as though she wanted to shout out all her longing for this period of time. Lil Luo, are you alright? Dmo Xian's voice was suppressing the joy and agitation. His first question was to ascertain if Yiqing Luo was alright. Yiqing Luo's throat seemed to be blocked by something as her eyes reddened tightly. Her little hands were tightly clenched into fists, trying to suppress her current emotions. Lil Luo, did he do something to you? After not hearing Yiqing Luo's reply for a long time, the man's voice turned taut. His tone was also slightly anxious. Yiqing Luo hurriedly replied, No. No, I'm fine. As soon as she spoke, choking sounds came out from her lips uncontrollably. He could no longer restrain himself. Yiqing Luo simply didn't conceal it as she sniffled and spoke with a sobbing tone. Ah Xian, I miss you. Dmo Xian's heart wrenched at this moment. His heart ached. Lil Luo, wait for me? I will come and pick you up immediately. Pick her up immediately? Hearing this sentence, Yiqing Luo's agitated heart slowly regained some rationality. She forcefully wiped her eyes, suppressing the sourness that welled up in her eyes. The connection between the profound phoenix ring and profound dragon ring could not cross the boundary. Previously, when they were in the ancient tree, they were able to confirm that Dmo Xian had reached the heaven realm. But now, through the two rings they communicated. This meant that Dmo Xian was currently in the vicinity of this residence. Or perhaps he had already infiltrated this residence. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. Chapter 4397. This knowledge made Yiqing Luo's heart skip a beat. Ah Xian, where are you now? Do you miss me so much? The man's clear voice had a hint of a smile, like the warm sunshine, dispelling all the coldness in Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's heart was melted and her eyes turned red again. She pursed her lips and suppressed her emotions. I miss you very much. But I don't want you to take risks for me. She tried hard to calm herself down and continued, Ah Xian, I'm fine here. He only restricted my freedom but didn't hurt me. Don't be impulsive. I will wait here for you to pick me up, but you have to promise me all your actions must be 80%, no 90% and above, before you can take action. Dmo Xian laughed lowly. Hua Yan's low and hoarse voice seemed to overflow from the depths of his throat. In this silent room, inexplicably, a layer of faint ambiguity was emitted. He was using his voice to tease her heartstrings. The young lady's cheeks were flushed, her charming eyes were watery and beautiful. She pinched her fingertips and pouted, I'm serious. Believe that I can protect myself and not let you worry. You can't let me worry too. Ch. The man hushed her. That one syllable. It almost made Yiqing Luo's legs soften. She really missed him too much. That was why she could only hear his voice and couldn't control her feelings. Dmo Xian's voice became more gentle. Be good, don't talk about these. I want to hear you say, you miss me. Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo was so angry that she laughed. It was already at this time. He still had the mood to joke. Dmo Xian guessed the young lady's thoughts and laughed lightly. I'm not joking. He paused, and his voice also revealed a few traces of Keely and Toomey. I just missed you. That clear voice was slightly hoarse. It made Yiqing Luo's heart skip a few beats. Her face had already turned red uncontrollably. I want to hear you talk. Just about you and me. That voice was even lower, mellow and seductive. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip. I lost to you. Finally, she could hear his voice. He wanted to make use of this rare opportunity to listen to her words of love. Shouldn't they take this opportunity to discuss their current situation and analyze how to leave this mansion together? However, listening to the man's seductive words, Yiqing Luo had no way to reject. Towards Dmo Xian's beauty, she would never be able to refuse. Yiqing Luo started to rummage through her mind for all the local love words that she knew. Ah Xian, when it comes to liking you, I'm number one in the world. Although you have walked out of my sight, I can't walk out of my longing for you. Far away in the depths of the horizon ridge, a person stood on the back of a nine-tailed fox, floating in midair. That peerless face was filled with softness. His eyes were filled with gentleness and love. However, the surging waves around him seemed to be able to overturn the entire Qinya Ridge. The hurricane howled, and the tyrannical profound waves surged behind him like raging waves. His hands moved and his sleeves fluttered. The profound light grew stronger and stronger as it charged into the boundless forest ahead. Rumble, a decaying aura pervaded the entire space. Bam! A heavy collision sound was heard. The energy which he released seemed to have collided against an invisible barrier, as it was bounced back. The fastest update speed. Hurry up and read it. Download address, cell phone reading. Chapter 4398. The vast energy eroded everything around it. 3 steps away from Diamo Shen, because of the rebounding energy, the entire Qinya Ridge was shaking incessantly. Bam, 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 the tyrannical profound waves collided again and again, and were rebounded by that invisible barrier again and again. Each wave was more turbulent than the last. Each wave was more majestic and vast than the last. Everything around it was razed to the ground. But, even though it created such a horrifying scene, the man's face was still so gentle and pampering. There was not a bit of evil aura on it. It was as if the surrounding environment was treacherous. It was not created by him. And he seemed to have no connection with the surrounding environment. By his ear, he only heard the gentle voice of a young lady, gently ringing. The gentle voice was filled with the sweetness and tenderness of a young lady. Each and every word was like a warm current, rippling in his heart. He would occasionally respond with a word or two. From time to time he would use a low and alluring voice to reply a few words. Even at the same time when he was doing such a gentle thing, the surrounding profound waves did not stop for even a little bit. On the contrary, along with the gentleness in his eyes, his imposing manner and broad and violent overbearingness, as if it could swallow everything in the world. He did not know how long it lasted. The young lady's voice suddenly stopped. After several breaths of silence, her voice was a little hoarse. A low sigh overflowing from her lips. Ah Xian, I miss you. Another set of rustic words of love. But in the end, at the very end, she only had the words miss you to express everything in her heart. The man's shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to have light floating, captivating one's soul. He slightly raised his hand, caressed the netherworld dragon ring on his fingertip, as if he could caress the young lady's face through the air. Miss her. He missed her too. Wanted to hold her in his arms, to hug her tightly, to touch her body temperature, to smell the fragrance on her body, to feel her by his side. Just at this moment, suddenly from the other side of the ring, came the young lady's slightly tense voice. Zhu Wuxen, what are you doing here again? The man's pupils suddenly contracted. On the other side of the room, Yiqing Luo was staring at the profound phoenix ring in a daze. She couldn't wait to leap into Diamo Shen's arms through the profound phoenix ring. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. Her emotions immediately tensed up. She jumped up from the bed and saw Zhu Wuxin walking in with a cold expression. Zhu Wuxin's expression was cold, and there seemed to be some sort of emotion in his eyes. It was extremely frightening. Zhu Wuxin, what are you doing here again? Yiqing Luo clutched the profound phoenix ring tightly, her heart thumped hard. Surely it couldn't be that. Zhu Wuxan had discovered that she had made contact with Diamo Shen? His complexion was extremely frightening. Without saying a word, Zhu Wuxin slowly approached her. An invisible pressure poured down on them. The air seemed to be frozen into frost. She stared at Zhu Wuxian's gloomy face and clenched her fingers tightly. Zhu Wuxian, what exactly do you want to do? Her wrist was forcefully grabbed by Zhu Wuxin. That wide palm was extremely powerful. Pressing both her arms, he pressed her body onto the bed. Yiqing Luo's expression instantly turned extremely ugly as her voice revealed a chilly tone. Zhu Wuxin, do you know what you're doing? I've never been more clear-headed than now. Zhu Wuxin looked at her from above, and between his brows was a deep coldness which Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. Please remember this book's domain name. Com. Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4399. His pair of cold eyes reflected the girl's cold and elegant and exquisite face that could topple cities. His long slender fingers slowly caressed Yiqing Luo's delicate face. His fingertips moved gently towards her lips. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past, and in this dim room, it revealed a chilly glint. Zhu Wuxen, if you dare to make another move, I will make you unable to be a man for the rest of your life. Her tone was filled with an eerie chill. Her alluring eyes were filled with endless enmity towards men. That sinister gaze pierced Zhu Wuxian's eyes. He pursed his thin lips tightly as his chest seemed to be accumulating some kind of unsuppressible emotion. Hallmaster's words kept reverberating in his mind. His eyes were filled with black whirlpools as it turned more and more berserk. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the aura of death from Zhu Wu Xian's body. That icy cold feeling as though it was isolated from the world. It made her a little apprehensive. Move aside. Her voice deepened. Zhu Wu Xian gave a low laugh as his long hair poured down onto Yiqing Luo's body. Yiqing Luo, I've said this before. I won't let go. His tone was mixed with a craziness which he himself didn't even notice. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted slightly as her eyes were filled with coldness and indifference. Zhu Wu Xian, you asked for this yourself. Her words had just ended. Her legs suddenly bent upwards as she used all her strength to knock against the man's crotch. Her action was very sudden. Plus, Zhu Wu Xian totally didn't expect that Yiqing Luo, who had lost her profound energy, would have any power to retaliate. This time, it was a heart-wrenching pain. No matter how indifferent Zhu Wu Xian was. He was in so much pain that his forehead was oozing with cold sweat. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to escape from his body. Immediately following that, her fingertips moved. Some white powder floated in the air. Following that, she didn't even take a look at Zhu Wu Xian as her figure speedily shifted towards the door. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wu Xian staggered as he chased after her. Because of the pain somewhere, every step he took seemed as though he was stepping on a sharp knife. He chased to the door. He held onto the door with one hand as his expression was cold. Stand right there. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she hadn't heard what he said. He quickly rushed out of the courtyard. Zhu Wuxin wanted to give chase. However, his entire body felt as if there were sharp blades stabbing into his lower abdomen one by one. Along with the place which Yiqing Luo had kicked earlier, the pain was getting more and more indescribable. Wuxin. The hall master also wanted to come over and check on the current progress. The moment he arrived, he saw Zhu Wuxin lying at the door, twitching in pain. He quickly rushed over and helped Zhu Wuxin up. What happened? Where's that little girl? Zhu Wuxin grabbed his wrist with the back of his hand. His palms were full of cold sweat. That deathly pale face seemed to be filled with extreme pain. He enunciated each word with an ice-cold gaze. Catch her, don't let her escape. Don't. This was the first time the hall master had seen Zhu Wuxin in such a sorry state. The palace lord looked at Zhu Wuxin's appearance, then at his slightly bent body as if he was in extreme pain somewhere. The expression on his face was very complicated. He patted Zhu Wuxin's shoulder. This is the enchantment that you've conjured, she can't escape. But, are you sure you don't want to cure the poison first? His gaze fell onto a certain part of Zhu Wuxin. You must know that this part of a man is very important. If you're not careful in the future you might. Please remember this book's domain name. Com. Wonderful Book House mobile version website. Com. Chapter 4400. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes suddenly blurred. The image of the young girl looking at him with hostility and an ashen face appeared in his mind. He could still hear the girl's cold words ringing in his ears. I will make it so that you can never be a man. She was referring to, is that it? Once after being removed from her world, she would not be soft-hearted. In her heart. Right now, he was just an enemy. Wu Xian. I'll detoxify you first. The temple master looked at him with a pale face and a bitter smile on his face. He gritted his teeth and carried him up. Zhu Wuxin's breathing was tight. His voice was pained, but it was filled with determination. Find her. I want her to personally cure me of the poison. He could not possibly let go of Yiqing Luo. Even if she hated him, it didn't matter. Even if he was treated as an enemy, it didn't matter. He must keep her by his side. Zhu Wuxin. The leader of the temple gnashed his teeth and glared at Zhu Wuxin. What have I done to deserve a brother like you? He carried her into the room. Just as he was about to press the other party onto the bed, Zhu Wuxin's hand gripped it tightly. Don't touch her bed. The palace master's movements paused. Why are you so hard to please? Zhu Wuxin forcefully closed his eyes. The intense pain from his lower abdomen caused large beads of cold sweat to appear on his forehead. Put me on the ground, he said with difficulty. Temple master, are you sick? Yiqing Luo, she doesn't wish for her place to be tainted with my scent. Zhu Wu Xian lowered his head slightly, as his voice was so light that there was only a breath left. As his words fell, the surrounding atmosphere was so low that it was a little terrifying. You You're really sick. The temple master endured for a long time before swallowing the last few words. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Then, he carried the man to the corner of the room and made him lean against the wall. He pressed Zhu Wuxin against the wall, untied his outer robe and covered Zhu Wuxin with it. He was about to get up. His gaze swept past Zhu Wuxin's face. His movements suddenly paused, his eyes staring unblinkingly at Zhu Wuxian's face. Wuxin you. The hall master's pupils dilated slightly, as if he had received a great shock. What did he see? Zhu Wuxin's deep and dark eyes that were like deep pools were actually filled with thick black mist. The mist was spreading through the building. One could faintly see the infatuation in Zhu Wuxian's eyes as well as his deep obsession towards Yiqing Luo. What was going on? Why was there such a strange feeling on Wuxian's body? The temple master was just about to reach out and touch Zhu Wuxin's eyes. He had just raised his hand but he hadn't even gotten close. Zhu Wuxin raised his hand and slapped him down. Go after them. Bring her back. She can't escape, she can't escape. His hoarse voice was bone-chilling. However, there was also a sense of treachery that made one's hair stand on end. The temple master felt even more uneasy and strange. However, under Zhu Wuxin's urging, he took a deep look at Zhu Wuxian before turning around and leaving the room. After Yiqing Luo left this courtyard, she speedily headed towards that ancient tree. In the profound phoenix ring, the man's voice had already been cut off. Perhaps earlier when Zhu Wuxian was pressing down on her arm, it had cut off the connection between her and Diamo Xian. Not knowing, earlier Zhu Wuxian's voice was not heard by Xian. If he heard it and the connection between them was suddenly cut off, Xian he would definitely be extremely anxious. Chapter 44:01. No way. She couldn't let Xian worry. She must hurry and tell Xian that she was fine. Yiqing Luo's long and thick eyelashes fluttered slightly. Her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of determination. Yiqing Luo had already remembered the path she had taken. It wasn't difficult to find that ancient tree which made the profound phoenix ring react. But, when she reached the garden, however, he was stopped by two petite figures in front of him. The little girl looked like 12 or 13 years old and she timidly stretched out her arms, blocking Yiqing Luo's path. Yiqing Luo ignored them and prepared to walk past them. But the moment she moved, the two little girls followed and moved, blocking in front of Yiqing Luo. Move aside. Yiqing Luo's face sunk as she spoke coldly. The two little girls shook their heads hard. Yiqing Luo's brows surfaced a chilly intent. Move aside, don't force me to make a move. The little girl was so scared that she trembled all over as her mouth was agape but she couldn't say a single word. However, they didn't seem to have the slightest intention of moving their bodies away. It's him who asked you to stop me? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Her voice had just ended when she heard a clear voice. It's me. That voice was very unfamiliar. But vaguely there was a little bit of familiarity. Didn't Qian say, there was no one else in this residence other than the four of them? How could there be other people? Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a tall figure descending from the sky. A loose bamboo-colored robe revealed his fair chest muscles. His face was like jade and he looked handsome. Yiqing Luo's brows jumped. Profound Hall Master. The man's brows rose as he laughed lightly. I didn't expect Miss Yi to still remember me. It's really you? Yiqing Luo was shocked. Why are you here? Why wasn't he in his profound hall but here in the heaven realm? Of course to help Wuxian. The hall master's thin lips curled upwards as though he was an immortal. He slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Follow me back to help Wuxian detoxify. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. You mean? Zhu Wuxian became so strange and suddenly did that kind of thing to me was taught by you? Don't you like it? A trace of hostility flashed through the cold eyes of the palace master. Don't women like this kind of things that are superficial and meaningless? Words of love? Surprise? Or is it the unique tenderness for you? Since Wuxian is willing to change for you, it means that his feelings for you are true. Why do you have to reject him again and again? Yiqing Luo naturally sensed the enmity the hall master had towards her. It was the first time he met the palace master. He restrained his aura and did not reveal his fangs that were too sharp. But, this time the palace master clearly wanted to kill her. Yiqing Luo maintained her own emotions as her voice was indifferent. Whether to accept him or not is my business. Don't force your own thoughts onto Zhu Wuxian and me. Wuxin is my brother. The ruthlessness in the palace master's eyes intensified. You even put that kind of poison on him? Come with me to cure the poison immediately. Yi Qing Luo sneered. Thanks to you, isn't it because of you that he became like this? The palace master's face turned pale, and his figure suddenly moved. His wide sleeves rustled in the air, giving off a loud sound. The profound waves surged wantonly, like a raging hurricane, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at Yi Qing Luo, as though it wanted to swallow her up. I say. The young lady's red lips were charming as it rose slightly. Have you liked Zhu Wuxian for a long time? Chapter 4402. The surrounding turbulent hurricanes rushed towards Yi Qing Luo at the instant. It suddenly stopped, as though the pause button had been pressed. Everything in the surroundings froze in that instant. Several breaths. Bam bam bam. Overbearing profound rays exploded in the surroundings, with Yi Qing Luo and the rest as the core. The surrounding flowerbeds and trees were all exploded and collapsed, turning into ruins. A horrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate instantly spread out. The environment had been destroyed to such a state. But the few people standing in the middle were totally unscathed. The young lady stood against the wind, dressed in a fiery red robe, looking magnificent. Her brows were as calm as water. Her dark red lips curled into a charming cold arc. On her face there was no change of emotions, as though she was completely certain that he didn't dare to make a move. Or perhaps she had her own trump card. She was not afraid of any of his actions. Obviously, those two young girls who didn't know how to speak had already fainted from fright. But she was unmoved. The palace lord's half-squinted eyes seemed to be filled with frost. What are you saying? He practically squeezed each word out from the slits of his teeth. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Her long and thick lashes were like butterfly wings as it fluttered, projecting a beautiful fox shadow. Looks like I've guessed your thoughts. Yi Qing Luo. The palace lord's expression congealed as his hands clenched into fists. I don't know why you would have such a ridiculous thought, but I'm telling you. Just because you don't like Wu Xan, don't slander his feelings towards you. His eyes turned darker and darker. But it was strangely resolute. You cannot accept him, don't like him, but absolutely cannot deny that he loves you in that heart. Yi Qing Luo's smile slowly froze on her face. Her eyelashes fanned and the expression on her face had lost that coldness. Sky profound palace lord, everyone's feelings only he himself knows. She sighed slightly. How can you be sure that the person he really loves is me? I understand him. The palace lord looked at her fixedly. Perhaps even he himself doesn't know how deep his feelings for you are. He paused for a moment. The expression on the palace master's face also became serious. Wu Xian is different from normal people. The life he has lived since he was young is also different from ours. The way he treated things and people, to him, was either to possess or to destroy. Only you, he wanted you but he couldn't have you and he couldn't bear to destroy you. Needless to say, he loves you so much that he can't even free himself from it. Although he did a lot of things that you couldn't agree with. But that's the way he loves you. Everyone loves in a different way. He just loves you the way he loves you. Whether you accept it or not, he loves you. You can't deny this. Hearing the hall master's resolute and sincere words, Zhang Xian felt a chill run down his spine. How could Yi Qing Luo's heart not be shocked? Perhaps she could vaguely feel it. The person Chu Wu Xan was clinging to was not only that Xiao Qing Luo who had given him warmth and gentleness. There was also her, whom he had been pestering but had been repeatedly rejected. However, she did not want to think about the thoughts of men other than Xian. She didn't want to give any man other than Xian any hope. So she directly ignored all of Chu Wu Xian's feelings, placing Chu Wu Xian in a position that seemed like an enemy yet a friend. But today the palace lord had pointed it out directly. She had no choice but to face this problem. End of this chapter. Chapter 4403. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes finally had a slight reaction. Her slender brows rose as her long and narrow eyes were filled with complicated emotions which no one could understand. As though she was smiling. Or as though she was ridiculing him. So you feel that I should accept his feelings just because he has deep feelings for me? The young lady's tone was filled with slight ridicule. Hall Master went into a blank for a moment but quickly replied, You should know that he only wishes for you to stay by his side. He wants me to accompany him, so I must accompany him? Yi Qing Luo sneered. What on earth does he treat me as? Hall Master was slightly dazed by Yi Qing Luo's reaction. Generally speaking, when a lady heard such words, even if she had no feelings towards Zhu Wuxian, she would at least feel touched. Why was it that this young lady still ridiculed him at the slightest disagreement? After a long time, he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, Yiqing Luo, the reason why I'm saying all these is not because I want you to accept his feelings, but I hope that you can understand Wu Xian's feelings towards you. Just like earlier you guessed that I have an improper relationship with him. This kind of words is an insult to his feelings towards you. She could tell. Hall Master really cared about Zhu Wuxian very much. This kind of feelings was not mixed with any other things. She gently curled her lips as her exquisite brows were filled with complicated emotions. Then, I also hope that you can understand that it's impossible for me to accept his feelings, and I don't want to understand his feelings towards me. There was a hint of coldness in her voice. Her tone was indifferent without much ripples. So, move aside, I want to leave this place. Hall Master's handsome face frowned tightly. You this woman, why is your heart made of stone? I've said so much and you haven't heard a single word? It's not that I have a heart made of stone, but my heart cannot accommodate a second person. Yiqing Luo took a step back. Her fingers moved. A burst of flame started burning from her fingertip. Move aside. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The palace master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Didn't you lose your profound strength? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yiqing Luo's voice had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips had already been waved out. When the small ball was swung out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a fire dragon and burst out of the hole. Boundless waves of fire surged into the sky. Even the surrounding air hissed under these intense flames. The handsome face of the hall master frowned. Woman, why are you so cold-hearted? I've said so much, but you didn't listen to a single word? It's not that I have a heart of stone, but there's no room for a second person in my heart. Yiqing Luo took a step back. She moved her fingers. A wisp of flame burned on her fingertip. Get out of my way. Even if I step aside, you won't be able to leave this place. The hall master stared at the leaping flames on her fingertips. Haven't you lost your profound energy? Whether I can leave or not is my own business. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed when the raging flame on her fingertips was already waved out. In an instant, it turned into a fire dragon breaking out of the hole. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air under this intense flame gave out a hissing burning sound. The majestic waves of fire set off huge waves. The surrounding air under this intense flame gave out a hissing burning sound. End of this chapter. Chapter 4404. He's getting serious. With a flap of Qi Yan's wings, the fire wave was blown away. Then it flapped its wings and flew one round around Yiqing Luo. The overlord isn't around, so the men you've provoked, one after another. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and slapped Qi Yan's head. Don't speak if you don't know how to speak. What did he mean by she had provoked man after man? It was these men who were sick, okay? Qi Yan was almost hit by the palace lord's attack. He looked at the girl who had already run ahead of him. It was so angry that its little mouth pricked Yiqing Luo's body. If you dare to touch this sacred beast again, this sacred beast will not care about you anymore and let you be smacked to death by that man. Yiqing Luo. Suddenly, a palm wind landed heavily on the road in front of Yiqing Luo. In an instant, gravel flew in all directions, and a huge crater was blasted open on the small path ahead. It also sealed off Yiqing Luo's escape route. The palace lord chased up to Yiqing Luo's back, and on seeing her stop in her footsteps, he also stopped in his tracks. Follow me back, Wu Xan is waiting for you. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stared at the deep pit in front of her. The surrounding roads had been blasted into smithereens and she had no place to land her feet at all. With her current situation where she did not have any profound energy at all, there was no way for her to cross the deep pit from the sky. She slowly turned around and looked at the man behind her. She laughed mockingly. Lord Palace Lord, I no longer doubt that you like Zhu Wuxin. I say, have you taken a fancy to me? The temple master's face darkened. Do you think I'm as blind as Zhu Wuxin? Yiqing Luo. What the hell was blind? Hall master's face turned black as he continued. Yiqing Luo, don't force me to bring you to Wu Xian's side forcefully. Wu Xian doesn't want to see you getting hurt, but if you insist on forcing me, I don't mind using a pole to carry you over. I told you I won't be by his side. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly, her fair neck, The lines were smooth and beautiful. If you want to see Zhu Wuxia really become a cripple, I don't mind you carry me over. Anyway, he was the one who needed her help now. The hall master's face darkened further. He really couldn't understand. How could his brother fall in love with such a cold-hearted woman? He pursed his lips, his voice was tense, and his emotions were on the verge of collapse. You rejected Wuxia because you don't understand her. If you spend some time with Heartless, you will definitely fall in love with him. Yiqing Luo. Now it was changed to a conciliatory policy? This thought had just flashed through his mind. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of him. The palace master's sudden movement had already caused him to appear in front of her in a flash. Holy sh*t. He actually dared to play dirty? She had overestimated the palace master's integrity. Yiqing Luo's hand was directly grabbed by the hall master. The path ahead was already a pitch-black deep pit, and she had no way out at all. When the palace master approached, the raging flames around him bared their fangs and brandished their claws, trying to devour the temple master. But he had no intention of dodging. Just like that, facing the pain of being burned by the raging flames, he forcefully charged into the flames and arrived in front of her. This hall master was really going all out for Zhu Wuxia. Yiqing Luo took a look at the hand which was locked on her arm, and following that hand, she looked at the palace master. His face was still as calm as before, not a hint of impatience could be seen. After meeting the palace master's gaze. Chapter 4405. Trying to use the same method to deal with Wuxia to deal with me? Palace Lord gave a faint smile. You can try. Why should I waste such a precious medicine on you? Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. I wonder if Palace Lord has tasted human meat before? Palace Lord replied, no. Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto his hand. Now the taste of roasted human meat. Palace Lord can have a taste. In other words, she disdained to poison him. But the vermilion bird's fire would teach him how to be a man. Palace Lord naturally understood the deep meaning behind it. But his hand had no intention to let go. On the contrary, his palm gripped her arm even more tightly. As he slightly bent over, his handsome face inched closer to her ear. The loose robe revealed a large portion of his skin. Yiqing Luo only needed to shift her gaze slightly and she was able to see the skin under the loose robe. Yiqing Luo? Should she ridicule was this guy an exhibitionist? She had no intention of admiring his skin. So, what on earth was he trying to do? Taking the opportunity to molest her? Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a glint. Just as she was about to raise her hand to roast human meat into actual action. Suddenly, a pair of strong and powerful arms went around her shoulders from behind, locking her down. Her back was pressed into a broad embrace. The elegant sandalwood fragrance instantly permeated her entire nose. Bam! In front of her, that person who was locking her arm suddenly flew out. He was still in midair, spinning rapidly for a few rounds, before crashing heavily onto the wall at the side. Profound Palace Lord. How dare you touch this lord's person? The man's cold voice was mellow, disdainful and disdainful. This sudden turn of events. Yiqing Luo had no time to care, nor was she interested to bother about it. Since that aura had completely enveloped her. Her body tensed up tightly. Her eyes uncontrollably reddened. The man's temperature, the man's scent, and that mellow voice, all crazily crashed into her head. Xian. Her voice couldn't stop the slight tremble. Joy and shock were mixed in. After shouting out this word. In the end, she couldn't help turning around in the man's arms. She raised her head, and in her eyes that were blurred by tears, the man's peerlessly handsome face was reflected. He also lowered his head. Her peach blossom eyes were filled with love and tenderness. When their eyes met, it was as if there were only the two of them in the world. The girl's soft arms tightly wrapped around the man's waist. Her cheek was pressed against his chest. She listened to his powerful heartbeat. The emptiness in his heart was slowly being filled. Lil Luo, I'm here to pick you up. The man's low and mellow voice was dark and husky, and his beautiful voice tugged at her heartstrings. This sentence, a few simple words. But it forced Yiqing Luo to forcibly hold back her tears, as it flowed down from the corners of her eyes. She rubbed her face against the man's chest. Dmo Xian allowed her to do whatever she wanted. The tenderness in his eyes could almost cloy someone to death. His hands were tightly wrapped around the girl's delicate body, as though he wanted to rub her into his body. I want to hug you, I've thought about it for a long time. He cupped the young girl's face, and in his peach blossom eyes, there were layers of gentle spring water. He bent his head and kissed the young girl's lips hard. I want to kiss you, I've thought about it for a long time. His lips were domineering and boiling hot. That kind of overbearingness could not be resisted. Chapter 4406. Dmo Xian was unable to use words to describe his current feelings. His stomach was filled with joy and satisfaction. It almost made his body and mind burst apart. In this world, only his little Luo was able to stir up his emotions. No one knew. After he and Yiqing Luo finally established a connection, haven't had time to walk to her side. He heard her exclamation of Zhu Wuxin ringing beside his ear. That tone was obviously different from usual. He anxiously wanted to ask Yiqing Luo what exactly had happened. But the connection between the two of them suddenly was cut off. At that time, just how chaotic and anxious was his heart, no one knew. The moment he thought that something might happen to Yiqing Luo, the viciousness and rage in his heart kept on surging. He had no way to control his thoughts. Even before, if Yiqing Luo was hurt in the slightest, he wanted the entire world to be buried with her. This kind of thinking. Luckily, she was fine. His little Luo was fine. Otherwise he really didn't know what he would do. Dmo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly. The passionate kiss almost swallowed the young lady into his stomach. From this kiss, Yiqing Luo could deeply feel the man's longing for her, his concern for her, the importance he placed on her, so many emotions. She could feel it clearly. The two's warmth and sweetness. It fell into the eyes of the hall master who was sent flying not too far away. He gazed deeply at this beautiful scene in front of him. For a long time he was unable to shift his eyes away. After a long time. Only then did he slowly put his hand on his waist and abdomen. There was a long jade pendant hanging from his loose waist. Qingyi swayed back and forth as he chuckled mockingly. You've heard it too. Their relationship is one that no one can interfere with. Only standing by the side to watch this scene. The hall master felt that his heart was being tugged by some kind of emotion, with a shocking feeling. In the world of those two, there was no place for a third person to exist. It was no wonder. No matter what, Yiqing Luo would not take another look at Zhu Wuxan. All of her gentleness and the sweetness that belonged to a little girl were only given to that one man. Meanwhile, far away in a room in the courtyard, his entire body was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. His face was as pale as a sheet as he cowered in the corner of the room. He raised a hand and covered his eyes. He tried to hide the pain in his eyes. At this moment, a slender figure quietly entered the room. Step by step he stood in front of the man. It was completely silent. What are you doing here? Zhu Wuxin did not move his hand away, nor did he look at anyone. His voice was cold and emotionless. The slender figure slowly walked to his side. If I didn't come, were you planning to kill yourself here and then make her feel guilty towards you? The woman's voice was clear and sweet. Zhu Wuxin still didn't move. Scram. The slender figure seemed to be used to Zhu Wuxin's coldness. She reached out and held Zhu Wuxin's arm. As soon as it touched him, Zhu Wuxin shook him off forcefully. The woman lost her balance as she fell onto the ground. Zhu Wuxin leaned against the wall as an eerily cold intent filled his eyes. I asked you to scram. The woman slowly got up from the ground. She didn't even pat the dust off her body as she walked to Zhu Wuxin's side without any change in expression as she continued to support him. Chapter 4407. Zhu Wuxin just give up. The woman's voice was indifferent and calm. No matter how you torture yourself, she won't feel any guilt towards you. What you're doing is just in vain. As her voice faded away, the man's hand directly intercepted her outstretched hand. Zhu Wuxin looked coldly at the woman in front of him. The woman was dressed in a long gown that was flamboyant and eye-catching. The most eye-catching thing was the red embroidery on her gown, which spread out like flowers blooming in blood. Her delicate and beautiful face was pure and beautiful, but there was a hint of disdain in her eyes. Her expression was very indifferent. When she met Zhu Wuxin's eyes, there was not much change in her expression. Zhu Wuxin. She spoke again. Di Zun has already broken your barrier. Are you sure you can still keep her in your current state? Zhu Wuxin's eyes were ice cold. They were as deep as a bottomless pool. The woman did not say anything more and continued to support him. Zhu Wuxin's face froze slightly, and the frost on his face became even colder. But, this time, he did not shake off the woman again. He let the woman help him up. His hand rested on her delicate shoulder, and all the weight of his body pressed on the woman. The woman's delicate body swayed slightly. But she still forced herself to carry Zhu Wuxin to the bedside. "Don't put me on her bed." Zhu Wuxin held the woman's arm tightly. She wouldn't like it. When he lowered his eyes seemed to be shrouded by a black fog. The woman pursed her lips, took a deep breath, and supported him out of the room. The place below Zhu Wuxin's lower abdomen hurt more and more as he walked. Cold sweat slid down and dripped on his eyelashes. His ice-cold eyes were blurred. In a trance, the voice that was transmitted into his ears through the jade pendant of the temple master as a medium was still echoing in his ears. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one can intervene in their relationship. No one? But, he couldn't accept it. That girl should have belonged to him. He was the one who first met her. The black mist surging in Zhu Wuxian's eyes became even more rampant. The other side. Diamo Xian carried Yiqing Luo in his arms. "Let's go." Yiqing Luo looped her arms around his neck and nodded smilingly. "I've suddenly disappeared for so many days, everyone must be worried about me." Cough. A light cough came from the side. The palace lord stood up shakily from the ruins. As he patted off the dust on his body, he raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo. "Both of you? This lovey-dovey act, isn't it a little too much?" His loose robe already had several holes in it. He was in a sorry state. Diamo Xian indifferently shot a glance at the palace lord. The imposing glare between his brows made one feel pressured. "Do you think that you can stop this, lord?" "Of course I won't seek my own death." The palace lord raised his sleeve and wiped off the blood on the corner of his lips. "But I don't want you to leave so easily." Yiqing Luo shifted her vision towards the direction of the palace lord. The man's handsome face was pale. The corners of his lips were stained with blood, but it couldn't hide the whiteness of his lips. Apparently the injury from Diamo Xian's strike earlier wasn't light. Chapter 4408. But even so, he still stabilized his figure and blocked in front of the both of them. "Move aside." Diamo Xian lost his patience as his eyes turned sinister. Hall Master gathered his loose robe. "The Overlord is here personally, so I naturally can't stop you." "But, Yiqing Luo?" Before he could finish his words, an item was shot towards his face. The Hall Master subconsciously caught the item. He opened his hand to take a look. It was a medicine bottle. The icy cold touch was emitting a faint medicinal fragrance. "I've passed the item to you, don't block the way." Yiqing Luo adjusted her position in Diamo Xian's arms. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and there was even a hint of mockery in them. "I say, you've really fallen for Zhu Wuxian, haven't you? For Zhu Wuxian you can even throw away your life." Yiqing Luo expressed that she really saw from Hall Master and Zhu Wuxian. Something which made her Fujoshi soul burn. So she couldn't be blamed for thinking in this way. Hall Master fixed his eyes on the medicine bottle in his palm. "This is the antidote?" Yiqing Luo shrugged. "You can choose not to believe." Diamo Xian carried her as he walked past Hall Master. Hall Master stared at the medicine bottle in his hand as though he was hesitating, but he didn't stop them from leaving. After walking for a distance, Hall Master suddenly tightened the medicine bottle as he raised his head and looked towards the direction where Diamo Xian and Yiqing Luo had left. Coincidentally, the young lady was hooking the man's neck as she patted his head, indicating for him to stop. This action, on the Overlord, it totally subverted everyone's understanding. But Diamo Xian's face didn't show any signs of displeasure. Instead he stopped in his tracks as he held the young lady's hand which was pressed on his head. His gaze was gentle and affectionate. Everyone could see that. How much importance did the Overlord place on Yiqing Luo? No wonder Yiqing Luo would fall deeply into the Overlord and not choose Zhu Wuxian. Hall Master swallowed back the words which were at the tip of his tongue. But that young lady who happened to meet his eyes slightly raised her red lips as her smile was extremely cold. "Help me pass a message to Zhu Wuxian." Her voice was clear and cold. There weren't many emotions in it. "I will remember what he did clearly. He won't have another chance." His words fell. A gust of wind blew over. The two figures in front of him had already disappeared. The temple master grabbed the bottle and took 2 steps forward. "What do you mean by that? What next chance?" "Archer." A familiar voice suddenly sounded behind him. The palace master's body suddenly stiffened. The expression on his face changed several times. Finally, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. He slowly turned around and said, "Qing Bing, why are you?" He stopped talking when he saw the person behind him. His gaze fell on the man beside the woman, who was in so much pain that he was covered in cold sweat. "Zhu Wuxin, what the hell are you doing?" The temple master was so angry that he rushed forward and grabbed Zhu Wuxin from the woman's hands. Zhu Wuxin grabbed his arm tightly, his cold eyes searching around. "Where is she? Where is she?" "You still have the mood to ask her." The temple master clenched his teeth as he opened the bottle. "Don't you know your own situation? I asked you to rest in your room, but can't you just listen to me? Are you going to torture yourself until you're crippled before you're satisfied?" This book came from Chapter 4409. The temple master poured out an elixir and wanted to feed it to him. But his wrist was firmly held by Zhu Wuxin. "Where is she? Where is she?" His grip was extremely strong. The temple master's hand was shaken and he almost dropped the bottle on the ground. His eyes suddenly darkened, and his face turned ashen and ugly. He suddenly stood up and shook off Zhu Wuxin's hand. "Where is she? Where is she? Do you only know how to ask where she is? Do you know why I'm here? I'm worried about you and care about you. That's why I came here from so far away. I don't want to see you torture yourself here. You want to know where she is, don't you? Let me tell you, she left with Dizun. She left with Dizun. She left without any hesitation and without any hesitation." The temple master bellowed angrily. He grabbed the jade pendant at his waist and threw it heavily on Zhu Wuxin. "You heard what she asked me to tell you with your own ears, didn't you? Do you need me to repeat it?" The jade pendant hit Zhu Wuxin's body. Pushed by the temple master, Zhu Wuxin staggered and fell to the ground even with the help of the woman. The jade pendant hit him. Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes slightly shrank. But he still said nothing. The temple master clenched his fists, raised his head slightly and took a deep breath. He tried his best to control his emotions. Then he stared at Zhu Wuxin and said word by word, "She said that she will remember clearly what you have done. You won't have a second chance." His every word caused Zhu Wuxin's body to tense up even more. A gloomy aura emanated from Zhu Wuxin's body. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified. The palace master did not stop speaking because of Zhu Wuxian's silent protest. "Zhu Wuxian, you should know better than anyone else what her words mean. The only person she could see and keep in her heart was the venerable sovereign. Is it useful to torture yourself? Is it useful? Archer." When the woman heard the palace master's words, which were getting more and more out of control, she immediately frowned and snapped at him. The palace master's body suddenly stiffened. His gaze, which was filled with pain and anger, slowly landed on the woman. The woman pursed her red lips and opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something. However, when he glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxin, he pursed his lips. The palace master shut his eyes tightly and raised his hand high. He wanted to throw the medicine bottle at Zhu Wuxin. But when he was about to fling it out, he gritted his teeth and retracted his strength, throwing it at Zhu Wuxin just like that. The medicine bottle rolled and rolled to Zhu Wuxin's feet. The hall master turned around and said in a tense tone, "It's up to you whether you want to live or die. I don't care anymore." After saying that, he flicked his sleeve and disappeared before their eyes. "Archer," the young woman called out anxiously. However, before she could do anything, his aura was completely gone. The woman felt helpless. She looked at the pale man beside her, whose face was filled with pain. She sighed as she slowly picked up the medicine bottle. Her exquisite face was filled with complicated emotions. "Wuxin." The woman poured out the last pill from the bottle and placed it by Zhu Wuxin's mouth as she spoke softly, "Archer cares about you too much. He's angry not because you like Yiqing Luo, but because he can't take it anymore. You hurt yourself because of a woman." The pill was placed by his lips, but Zhu Wuxin didn't open his mouth. There was no expression on his face. His gaze was slightly dazed. This book came from Chapter 4410. The lady's fingers which were holding onto the pill tightened as her slender fingers turned slightly white. "Ah Che he cares about you more than anyone else. You should know this better than anyone else." Zhu Wuxian finally had a little reaction. His eyelashes trembled slightly. He slowly raised his head and looked at the lady. The lady hurriedly moved that pill to his lips, Don't let the people who still care about you worry about you. You being in this state, we will all be very upset. The woman's face was slowly reflected in Zhu Wuxin's cold eyes. He opened his mouth and swallowed that pill into his stomach. The lady heaved a sigh of relief and continued, "Don't be too sad. That person gave you the antidote, which means that he can't bear to really hurt you." Chu Wu Xian's eyelashes trembled even more. His eyes were fixed on the woman without blinking. The lady smiled slightly. "After your body has recovered, go look for Ah Che. Now that the Overlord has already come to Heaven Realm, in this state of yours, how are you going to fight with the Overlord, right?" Diamo Xian. Chu Wu Xian's thin lips pursed slightly. He muttered these 3 words softly. Suddenly, he struggled free from the lady's support as he staggered as he stood up. "No. Yiqing Luo cannot leave this place." Chu Wu Xian. The lady's suppressed emotions finally couldn't hold it in any longer. "How much longer are you going to create a ruckus for? Have you really never thought about us?" Chu Wu Xian clenched his fists tightly as his expression was gloomy and gloomy. The black fog in his eyes started to spread. "The rankings are about to begin. She must stay here. I cannot let anything happen to her." Chu Wu Xian's voice and the fluctuation of his emotions was extremely huge. His words had just ended. He had already dashed towards the direction where Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian had disappeared to. When he passed by the lady, his body collided heavily with the lady's shoulder. But he didn't turn back. The lady staggered backwards from the impact. After she finally stabilized herself, she slowly raised her head and looked at the man who was swaying but still forcing himself to move forward. She took a step forward, wanting to chase after him. But after taking a step, she stopped. Unknowingly, her eyes started to blur. Why? He would never be able to see her existence? Outside the Tianya Ridge, the group of people waited anxiously for the return of the Overlord. Time passed slowly. 2 hours, 4 hours. The more time passed, the higher everyone's heart was. Especially in the Tianya Ridge, there was not the slightest fluctuation. It was impossible to guess what the Overlord had encountered in there. Kitty Lee paced around anxiously. Why hasn't Dizun brother-in-law come out yet? Did he find his sister? Can't we go in and look for Dizun brother-in-law? Zoamo pulled Kitty Lee into his arms and comforted her gently. Believe in Dizun. Let's wait a little longer. If Dizun doesn't come out in an hour, Ah Wu and I will go in and take a look. You? Kitty Lee quickly grabbed Zomo's collar and raised her head. I don't want you to go in. Zoamo chuckled and kissed her forehead. It's okay. Don't worry. Right. She will definitely be fine. The Overlord is so incredible and Arching Luo. She herself is a miracle, so nothing will happen to her. Yin Shaoyi used a certain tone to reply. But the way she gripped Xiao Jin's arm tightly betrayed the anxiety in her heart. This book came from Chapter 44:11. Don't let your imagination run wild. Huang Fuxing raised his voice to cheer everyone up. Ah Luo can bring us miracles one after another, so no matter when, as long as you are by her side, there will definitely be miracles. Their Yiqing Luo, their faith, absolutely undefeatable. The few of them looked at each other, conveying the determination in their hearts to the other party. Just at this moment, Gui Wu, who was leaning against the tree trunk with his eyes closed, suddenly moved and landed in front of everyone. His expression was solemn as he stared ahead. Who's there? Gui Wu's words made everyone's emotions congealed. Zhou Mo swiftly stuffed Kitty Lee behind his back as he looked ahead vigilantly. Swish, 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 swish. In the dense forest, suddenly countless sharp arrows were shot from all directions. The speed was fast and the momentum was violent. It was extremely shocking. What? Their reaction speed was extremely fast. When Gui Wu opened his mouth, everyone quickly switched to defensive mode. When the sharp arrows were shot down, everyone had already raised the weapons in their hands and slashed out all the sharp arrows. At this moment, Gui Wu also quickly formed an enchantment, enveloping everyone within it. There was still no sign of anyone in the surroundings. But thousands of sharp arrows were still shooting over. Bam! The sharp arrows were flickering with cold silver light as they heavily crashed onto the enchantment. 2 waves of chi collided, giving off a sharp ear-piercing sound. The sudden explosion of the profound waves set off layers upon layers of flying sand waves in the lush dense forest. What's that? What's going on? The group of people looked around with a grave expression, trying to find traces of someone. And at the same time, in the midst of the flying sand, Everyone saw that a huge crack had suddenly appeared in the horizon. Immediately following that, they saw people dressed in black robes, neatly walking out from that gap. Their pupils shrank immediately. Secluded palace. These people in front of them. Weren't they dressed in the secluded palace's attire? How did this group of monsters come to the heaven realm? And even followed them to Tinya Ridge. That patch of black-robed people, about 100 of them walked out. The gap in the sky slowly closed up. Is it a miracle? A charming voice was exceptionally obvious in this quiet and tense atmosphere. Then, the black-robed man who had wrapped himself up tightly, slowly opened up a path. A fairy-like young woman in a long white dress walked over with a flirtatious demeanor. The woman covered her red lips sweetly. Her voice was so soft that it could make one's bones go numb. She will have a miracle, but do you think that you will have a miracle? Everyone's faces turned cold and they quickly gathered together, looking at the woman nervously. Yan Shaoyi stared at the woman and sized her up. After a long while, a figure suddenly appeared in her mind. You are Bai Mei. This grace was too obvious. However, that face was obviously different from the Bai Mei in his memory. Bai Mei should be in her 30s or 40s. How could he be so young? The woman giggled and touched her face charmingly. I didn't expect that someone would recognize me. But, even if you recognize me, there's no reward. It's really you? Yan Shaoyi's expression sunk. You actually joined the secluded palace? What do you want to do? Of course I want to kill you all. Bai Mei's brows were filled with smiles. I really want to see Yi Qing Luo's flustered expression. Hurry up and read the latest update. Download address, phone reading. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.